A Worldwide Women's/Gender Studies Guide at College. Chapter 1. Women and Gender Study Programs at Colleges and Universities. NWSA.org, National Women's Studies Association. NWSA is the professional organization for women's studies in the United States. usurpage.umbc.edu/tilde-corinman/WMST, a big women's studies women's website. It was still there in 2023. If it's not there, look for it at archive.org. Women's Studies Websites 1. NWSA.org, National Women's Studies Association. NWSA. NWSA is the professional organization for women's studies in the United States. nwsa.org/af_institution_directory.asp, find a women's studies program. worldwidelern.com/online-education-science/women's-studies-major.htm. National Women's Studies Association. nwsa.org. Click on Employment for a nice list of positions teaching women's/gender studies. The National Council for Research on Women. ncrw.org. Under Resources, click on Jobs, Internships, and Other Opportunities. Be sure to also use the links for member centers and affiliate organizations, as these could also be potential places of employment. National Association for Female Executives. NAFE.com. See this website for a list of the top 30 companies for executive women. Working Mother Magazine. WorkingMother.com. KateGolden.com/Artemis Guide, a list of women's studies programs in the U.S. umbc.edu/wmst/ws_online.html, online degrees in women's studies. universitysource.com/womensstudies.htm, women's studies schools/programs in the United States of America. creativefolk.com, women's studies and folk music resources. smith.edu/swg/graduate.php, graduate programs in women's studies. The Modern Language Association's Journal, PMLA, sometimes publishes a list of women's studies programs in the U.S., mla.org/pmla. umbc.edu/wmst, women's studies online resources. umbc.edu/wmstudies, UMBC Gender and Women's Studies homepage. socig.ac.uk, Social Science Information Gateway. academicinfo.net/women.html. links2go.com/topic/women_s_studies. academicinfo.net/women.html, academic-info, women's studies. mun.ca/cwsc/williams, mary.pdf, access and merit, a debate on encouraging women in science and engineering. hsph.harvard.edu/population/annual_review.htm, annual review of population law, a database of summaries and excerpts of legislation, constitutions, court decisions, and other official government documents from every country in the world relating to population policies, reproductive rights and health, women's status and rights. onb.ac.at/Ariadne, Ariadne, Kooperationstelle F and UML, are Frauenspezifische Information und Dokumentation, searchable database of the women's and gender studies holdings of the Austrian National Library. womenstudies.mak.ac.ug, Make Rare University Department of Women and Gender Studies, Kampala, Uganda. graduateschool.phds.org/find/programs/genders-studies?field_id=21. law-gender-sexuality.jc/?in-house_publications, full-text publications. albion.edu/women's studies/majors-and-minors. augsburg.edu/women's studies. bigfuture.collegebord.org/majors/area-ethnic-cultural-gender-studies- bowdoin.edu/gender-women/index.shtml cabrillo.edu/academics/women's studies, caldwell.edu/careers/majors/women's studies, carlo.edu/academics/schools/div-humanities/ws-major.html, clas.ufl.edu/majors/women's-studies.html, cms.skidmore.edu/ocsc/search/major/women's_studies.cfm, cofc.edu/academics/major-minors/wgs.php, collegeprowler.com/women_gender_studies.htm, collegeprowler.com/majors/women_s-studies, collegettoolkit.com/colleges/browse/majors/biads/women's_studies/05.0207.aspx, csgsnyu.org, the Center for the Study of Gender and Sexuality, dickinson.edu/academics/resources/bulletin/women-s-and-gender-studies, en.wikipedia.org/wiki/women_s-studies, fresnostate.edu/academics/degrees-programs/women's-studies.html, genderandsexuality.as.nyu.edu, gendersexuality.uchicago.edu, genderstudies.ukla.edu, graduatestudies.phds.org/find/programs/genderstudies?field_id=2 a comprehensive guide to graduate schools in feminist, gender, and sexuality studies, grinnell.edu/academics/GWSS, guilford.edu/academics/academic-programs/women's-gender-sexuality-studies/majors, gwss.umn.edu, gender, women, and sexuality studies, hamilton.edu/academics/departments?department=women-s studies, hamline.edu/cla/women's-studies/major.html, hollands.edu/academics/women's studies, hope.edu/academics/women, hunter.cuny.edu/wgs program, ic.edu/gws, indiana.edu/genders/undergraduate/courses.shtml, Department of Gender Studies, inst.org/women's-studies, kssb.upd.edu.ph, University Center for Women's Studies, lebarts.wsu.edu/women/undergraduate/major.asp, lsa.umich.edu/students/academics requirements/majors-minors/women's studies/major women's studies, macallister.edu/academics/wgss/majors-minors, mycollegeoptions.org/content/research/major/description/women's studies.aspx, mymajors.com/women-39-s-studies-major, women's studies websites too, nec.edu/academics/programs/women's-studies, newcollege.asu.edu/hrcs/degrees/majors/women-studies-program, northcentralcollege.edu/majors/gender-and-women's-studies, pdx.edu/ws/major-in-women's-studies, programs.columbian.gwu.edu/women's studies/undergraduate/ws major, providence.edu/wms/pages/default.aspx, qc.edu/academics/women-s-studies.php, rmc.edu/academics/women's-studies/research.aspx, rose.edu/women's-studies, salem.edu/academics/undergrad/undergraduate/women's-studies. scholarships.com/financial-aid/college-scholarships/by-major/women's-studies-scholarships. skidmore.edu. smc.edu/academic programs/fisoc/pages/women-studies-major-requirements.aspx. smith.edu/swg/courses.php, study of women and gender. spellman.edu/academics/majors-women's-studies/comparative-women's-research-resource-center. studentscholarships.org/scholarships/345/women's_studies.php. talk.collegeconfidential.com/other-college-majors/221853-women's-studies.html. twu.edu/admissions/programs-majors.asp. uiowa.edu/women/grad.html, academic study in gender, women's, and sexuality studies. umass.edu/ug_program-guide/wost.html. vaniercollege.qc.ca/majors/women's-studies/major.html. washington.edu/students/gencat/academic/women_studies.html. webs.wichita.edu/?u=women studies. wgs.cofc.edu. wgs.students/careers-and-graduate-school/what-u-can-do-with-a-wgs-major. wgss.emory.edu/home/undergraduate/majors/women's.html. wgss.yale.edu, the Women's Gender and Sexuality Studies Program. wheatoncollege.edu/women's-studies/academic-studies/major. wmsd.wvu.edu/students/wmsd_requirements/major. womenscolleges.org/majors/college majors. womenscolleges.org/majors/scripts-college. womensstudies.barnard.edu/program/curriculum/major. womensstudies.ku.edu/undergraduate/index.shtml. womensstudies.rutgers.edu. womensstudies.ucr.edu/courses_degrees/major.html. womensstudies.vassar.edu. womensstudies.duke.edu. yalecollege.yale.edu/content/women's-gendrons-sexuality studies. yc.edu/v4content/career-services/majors/womenstudies.htm. Women's Studies websites 3. nwsa.org, National Women's Studies Association. barnard.edu/wmstud, Barnard College Women's Studies Department. beacon.org, Beacon Press. condor.depal.edu/wms, DePaul University, Women's and Gender Studies Program. eserver.org/feminism, eserver, Feminism and Women's Studies. academic.org/index.html, expect the best from a girl. That's what you'll get. feministcampus.org, feministcampus.org. feminist.org/research/wst.asp, feminist majority, search women's programs. library.wisc.edu/libraries/women's studies/fcmain.htm, feminist collections, a quarterly of women's studies resources. smith.edu/wst/gradlinks.html, graduate programs in women's studies. leland.stanford.edu/group/irwg, institute for research on women and gender. sbs.mnsu.edu/women, Minnesota State University, Women's Studies Department. slu.edu/colleges/as/ws, St. Louis University Women's Studies Program. barnard.edu/sfonline, scholar and feminist online, Barnard Center for Research on Women. rochester.edu/sba/index.html, Susan B. Anthony University Center. tcd.ie/women's_studies, Trinity College, Dublin, Center for Gender and Women's Studies. uga.edu/WSP, University of Georgia, Women's Studies Program. umassonline.net/WMSD, University of Massachusetts, Women's Studies Program. womenst.library.wisc.edu, University of Wisconsin, Women's Studies Librarians. wmsd.wvu.edu, West Virginia University Center for Women's Studies. scholar.lib.vt.edu/ejournals/willa, Women in Literacy and Life Assembly. yale.edu/WCS Yale, Women's Campaign School at Yale University. asu.edu/clas/women's_studies, Women's Studies at Arizona State University. research.umbc.edu/tildecoranman/wmsd/programs.html, Women's Studies Programs, Departments, and Research Centers. Chapter 2. Women's Gender Studies Degrees, Programs, and Certificates. M.A. Women Gender Studies Programs, United States. brandeis.edu/programs/wgs/graduate/index.html, Brandeis University, Waltham, MA, MA in Women's and Gender Studies. cgu.edu/pages/1477.asp, Claremont Graduate University, Claremont, CA, Interdisciplinary MA Program in Applied Women's Studies. clarku.edu/departments/women's studies, Clark Atlanta University, Atlanta, GA, MA in Africana Women's Studies. las.depaul.edu/wms, DePaul University, Chicago, IL, MA in Women's and Gender Studies. departments.drew.edu/wmsd/proginfo/gradcur.htm, Drew University, Madison, New Jersey, MA in Women's Studies and a concentration for Ph.D. mh.edu/w-studies/programs-grad.html, Eastern Michigan University, Ypsilanti, MI, MA of Liberal Studies in Women's and Gender Studies, Interdisciplinary. fau.edu/women's studies, Florida Atlantic University, Boca Raton, FL, MA. and Graduate Certificate in Women's Studies. wmsd.gmu.edu, George Mason University, Fairfax, VA, MA. Interdisciplinary Studies with a concentration in Women and Gender Studies. gwu.edu/wsdu/programs/programs.htm, #grad, George Washington University, Washington, D.C. MA in Women's Studies, MA in Public Policy with a concentration in Women's Studies. gsu.edu/www.wsi, Georgia State University, Atlanta, GA, MA in Women's Studies. jtsa.edu/academics/registrar/academic_bulletin/ab_Jewish_women's_studies.xml, Master of Arts Gender, Jewish Theological Seminary, MA in Jewish Women's Studies. luc.edu/women's studies/academics_grad.shtml, Loyola University, Chicago, MA in Women's Studies, and a 3-course graduate certificate, Mary Griffin Graduate Scholarship in WST, available to one full-time graduate student in the program. sbs.mnsu.edu/women/graduate, Minnesota State University, MS in Women's Studies. womens-studies.osu.edu, Ohio State University, Columbus, O, MA in Women's Studies. roosevelt.edu/cas/programs/wgs.aspx, Roosevelt University, Chicago, IL, MA. and Graduate Certificate in Women's and Gender Studies. womensstudies.sdsu.edu, San Diego State University, San Diego, CA, MA in Women's Studies. sfsu.edu/WGS Department, San Francisco State University MA in Women's Studies. slc.edu/graduate/program/women's-history, Sarah Lawrence College, Bronxville, New York, MA in Women's History. simmons.edu/grad-studies/program/gender-cultural, Simmons College, Boston, MA, Interdisciplinary MA Program in Gender/Cultural Studies. southernct.edu/departments/women's studies/masters/index.htm, Southern Connecticut State University, New Haven MA in Women's Studies and a Graduate Certificate in Women's Studies. albany.edu/ws/grad_curriculum.html, State University of New York, Albany MA in Women's Studies. twu.edu/ws/ma-n-certificate-program.asp, Texas Woman's University MA in Women's Studies. new.towson.edu/women's studies, Towson University, Maryland, MS in Women's Studies. unitedseminary.edu/academics/mos.asp, United Theological Seminary, New Brighton, MN, MA in Women's Studies, Religion, Theology, and Ministry. as.ua.edu/grs/programs/women's-studies-program/m-a-minor-of-arts-in-women's-studies, University of Alabama, Tuscaloosa MA in Women's Studies. artci.uc.edu/departments/wgs/grad/4-1_requirement.html, University of Cincinnati MA in Women's Studies. web.wst.ufl.edu/wst/graduate, University of Florida MA and MWS in Women's Studies. uis.edu/women and gender studies/curriculum/ma options, University of Illinois, Springfield Interdisciplinary MA in Women's Studies. louisville.edu/wgs/#ma, University of Louisville MA in Women's and Gender Studies. memphis.edu/wmst, University of Memphis Interdisciplinary MA Program in Women's Studies. uncg.edu/wms/programs/graduate.html, University of North Carolina, Greensboro MA in Women's and Gender Studies. uni.edu/csbs/women's studies/graduate-major, University of Northern Iowa, Cedar Falls MA in Women's Studies. wgs.usf.edu, University of South Florida, Tampa MA in Women's Studies. utexas.edu/colas/centers/cwgs/graduate-application/general-info.php, University of Texas, Austin MA in Women's and Gender Studies. womenstudies.wisc.edu/graduate-program.htm, University of Wisconsin-Madison MA in Women's Studies/Gender Studies. Women's Studies ph.d. Programs, United States. wgs.asu.edu, Arizona State University, PhD in Gender Studies. cgu.edu/pages/1016.asp, Claremont Graduate University, Claremont, CA, Ph.D. and MA in Women's Studies and Religion. graduates.emory.edu/academics/index.php?ID =82, Emory University, Atlanta, GA, Ph.D. in Women's Studies. indiana.edu/gender/graduate/phd.shtml, Indiana University, Bloomington Ph.D. in Gender Studies. womens-studies.osu.edu, Ohio State University, Ph.D. and MA in Women's Studies. liberal-arts.oregon State University, PhD Women's and Gender Studies. womens-studies.rutgers.edu, Rutgers University, New Brunswick, New Jersey, PhD in Women's Studies. stonybrook.edu/comic/cat/graduate/wags%20ph.d.html, Stony Brook University, Stony Brook, New York, ph.d in Women's and Gender Studies. twu.edu/ws/phd-program.asp, Texas Woman's University PhD in Multicultural Women's and Gender Studies. gws.arizona.edu/node/207, University of Arizona PhD in Women's Studies. genderstudies.ukla.edu, University of California, Los Angeles PhD in Women's Studies. femst.ucsb.edu/graduate, University of California, Santa Barbara PhD in Feminist Studies. feministstudies.ucsc.edu/graduate/phd-program/index.html, University of California, Santa Cruz PhD in Feminist Studies. wgss.ku.edu/graduate/phd/index.shtml, University of Kansas, Lawrence PhD in Women, Gender, and Sexuality Studies. gws.as.uky.edu/graduate-program-GWS, University of Kentucky, Lexington PhD in Women's Studies. clas.uiowa.edu/gwss, University of Iowa, Iowa City PhD in Women's Studies. womensstudies.umd.edu, University of Maryland, College Park Ph.D. and MA in Women's Studies. lsa.umich.edu/women/graduate, University of Michigan Joint PhD programs in Women's Studies and English, History, Psychology, or Sociology. gwss.umn.edu, University of Minnesota, Minneapolis, with gwss.umn.edu, Center for Advanced Feminist Studies, PhD in Women's Studies. uw.edu/uw-gwss/programs-courses/graduate programs, University of Washington, Seattle, Ph.D. and MA in Women's Studies. Combined Women's Studies and Law Programs. womensstudies.columbian.gwu.edu/joint-degrees-law, George Washington University J.D/M.A in Women's Studies. slc.edu/graduate/programs/women's-history/joint-degree-pace_law_school.html, Pace University and Sarah Lawrence College J.D/M.A in Women's History and Law. gws.arizona.edu/node/206, University of Arizona J.D/M.A in Women's Studies. law.uc.edu/institutes-centers/rgsj/wgss/about, University of Cincinnati J.D/M.A in Women's Studies. web.wst.ufl.edu/wst/graduate, University of Florida J.D/M.A in Women's Studies. law.indiana.edu/degrees/joint/minor-outside.shtml, University of Indiana, Bloomington J.D. with a minor in Gender Studies. wcl.american.edu/gender/will p, American University Women and International Law Program LLM in International Legal Studies with a specialization in gender and international law. Women's Studies Certificates and Minors, United States. American.edu/cas/wgs/index.cfm, American University, Washington, D.C. Graduate students can combine the study of women's and gender issues with core courses in a traditional discipline to earn an MA or Ph.D. ciis.edu/academics/graduate_programs/women's_spirituality_html, California Institute of Integral Studies MA or PhD in Philosophy and Religion with a concentration in women's spirituality. gc.cuny.edu/page-elements/academics-research-centers-programs/women's-studies, City University of New York Graduate School and University Center Graduate Certificate in Women's Studies for PhD programs. Columbia.edu/cu/irwag/index.html, Columbia University, New York City, interdisciplinary graduate courses in feminist inquiry, and a range of activities bearing on feminist scholarship and teaching. wsdb.concordia.ca/programs and courses, Concordia University's Simone de Beauvoir Institute of Women's Studies Certificate and Specialization Programs at the bachelor's or undergraduate level. arts.cornell.edu/fgss/academics/graduate.html, Cornell University, Ithaca, New York, graduate minor in Women's Studies. las.depaul.edu/wms, DePaul University, Chicago, IL, MA in Women's and Gender Studies. Dominican.edu, Dominican University of California, MA Humanities focus in Women's Studies. womenstudies.duke.edu/graduate-certificate, Duke University, Durham, NC, Certificate Program in Women's Studies for students pursuing Ph.D. and MA degrees. MIT.edu/GCWS, Graduate Consortium in Women's Studies at MIT. Offers MIT graduate credit for students enrolled at participating institutions: Boston College, Boston University, Brandeis University, Harvard University, MIT, Northeastern University, Simmons College, Tufts University, University of Massachusetts Boston. hds.harvard.edu/WSRP, Harvard Divinity School, Harvard University, Cambridge, MA, Ph.D. and Doctor of Theology Program in Religion, Gender, and Culture. indstate.edu/WMN Study, Indiana State University, Terre Haute Graduate Certificate in Women's Studies. k-state.edu/WOMSD, Kansas State University Graduate Certificate in WST for students in MA, MS, Ph.D. and professional programs. kent.edu/women's studies/index.cfm, Kent State University Women's Studies minor. uiswcmsweb.prod.lsu.edu/hss/wgs/, Louisiana State University Graduate Minor in Women and Gender Studies. genken.isp.msu.edu/academics/graduate.htm, Michigan State University, East Lansing graduate students may choose graduate-level courses. genderandsexuality.as.nyu.edu/page/undergraduate, New York University, New York City, MA concentration in Women's History, and draper.fas.nyu.edu/page/home, Draper interdisciplinary MA in the Humanities and Social Thought with a focus on gender politics. ids.chas.ncsu.edu/wgs, North Carolina State University, Raleigh, NC, interdisciplinary graduate minor in Women's and Gender Studies. ndsu.edu/graduate, North Dakota State University, Fargo Women's Studies graduate emphasis. niu.edu/wstudies/index.shtml, Northern Illinois University. At the graduate, master's, and doctoral levels, students may earn a graduate concentration in women's studies. genderstudies.northwestern.edu/graduate/index.html, Northwestern University, Evanston, IL, graduate certificate in women's studies. ohio.edu/women's studies, Ohio University, Athens graduate certificate for MA and PhD programs. al.edu.edu/women's_studies/academics/grad.shtml, Old Dominion University, Norfolk, VA, Emphasis in Women's Studies for MA in Humanities degree, graduate certificate. pages.uoregon.edu/wgs/graduate, Oregon State University, Corvallis, or Women's Studies specialization in MA in Interdisciplinary Studies, graduate minor in Women's Studies. womenstudies.psu.edu, Pennsylvania State University, University Park, PA, minor in Women's Studies for MA and PhD programs. pages.uoregon.edu/wgs, University of Oregon, Eugene, or graduate certificate in Women's Studies. princeton.edu/tilde/gss/graduate/graduate.html, Princeton University, Princeton, New Jersey, graduate certificate. Offers a weekly graduate colloquium in Women's Studies. The journal Critical Matrix is published twice annually and edited by graduate students. pdx.edu/ws, Portland State University, Oregon, Post, Baccalaureate Certificate. cswgs.rice.edu/content.aspx?ID =45, Rice University Graduate Certificate in the Study of Women, Gender, and Sexuality. womens-studies.rutgers.edu, Rutgers University, New Brunswick, New Jersey, Women's Studies Graduate Certificate. slu.edu/x17313.xml, St. Louis University Women's Studies Graduate Minor. brockport.edu/catalogs/2007/graduate/chapter 9/wms.html, State University of New York, Brockport Women's Studies Concentration in MA in Liberal Studies. feminist.stanford.edu, Stanford University Ph.D. Minor in Feminist, Gender, and Sexuality Studies. globalgenderstudies.buffalo.edu/graduate, State University of New York at Buffalo Women's Studies emphasis in MA in American Studies. departments.ttu.edu/w studies, Texas Tech University Interdisciplinary MA with a concentration in Women's Studies. twu.edu/ws/graduate-certificate.asp, Texas Woman's University Graduate Certificate in Women's Studies. myunion.edu, Union Institute and University PhD in Interdisciplinary Arts and Sciences with a concentration in Women's Studies. uakron.edu/academics_majors/graduate_programs/programs_detail. Program ID =9248883 &pagititele =graduate %20 programs &crum title =women s %20 studies %20 certificate, University of Akron, Ohio, graduate certificate in Women's Studies. womensstudies.berkeley.edu, University of California, Berkeley designated emphasis program on women, gender, and sexuality for Ph.D. wms.ucdavis.edu, University of California at Davis designated emphasis for Ph.D. in feminist theory and research to students in any discipline doing gender-related research. hnet.uci.edu/women's studies, University of California, Irvine graduate emphasis in feminist studies awarded in conjunction with the Ph.D. or MFA degree. feministstudies.ucsc.edu/graduate, University of California, Santa Cruz concentration in women's studies in a Ph.D. degree. genderstudies.uchicago.edu/grad, University of Chicago Center for Gender Studies graduate certificate in Gender and Sexuality Studies. wgsd.colorado.edu/graduate, University of Colorado, Boulder graduate certificate in Women and Gender Studies. womens.studies.yukon.edu, University of Connecticut, Storrs graduate certificate in Women's Studies. uga.edu/iws, University of Georgia, Athens graduate certificate in Women's Studies. womenstudies.hawaii.edu, University of Hawaii, Manoa graduate certificate in Advanced Women's Studies. class.uh.edu/ws/gradcert.asp, University of Houston Graduate Certificate in Women's Studies. uic.edu/departments/wsweb/academics/graduate.html, University of Illinois at Chicago Graduate Concentration in Gender and Women's Studies. gws.illinois.edu/student/grad/minor, University of Illinois at Urbana, Champaign, minor in Women's Studies for MA or PhD degrees. wgss.ku.edu, University of Kansas Graduate Certificate in Women's Studies. gws.as.uky.edu/graduate-certificate, University of Kentucky Graduate Certificate in Gender and Women's Studies. umaine.edu/wic, University of Maine Interdisciplinary Graduate Certificate in Women's Studies. umass.edu/wost, University of Massachusetts, Amherst Graduate Certificate in Advanced Feminist Studies. umb.edu, University of Massachusetts, Boston Graduate Certificate in Women in Politics and Public Policy and 1-year online graduate certificate program in Women in Politics and Public Policy. wgsd.missouri.edu, University of Missouri, Columbia Graduate Minor in Women's Studies. umcel.edu/gender studies, University of Missouri, St. Louis Interdisciplinary Graduate Certificate in Women's Studies. womensstudies.unc.edu, University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill, no graduate degrees in women's studies but offers a curriculum in women's studies for graduate-level courses in women's studies, conducting research and writing theses and dissertations on gender-related topics, and attending lectures and seminars. womensstudies.unt.edu/graduate-studies, University of North Texas, Denton MA and MS. With a major in interdisciplinary studies. Provides a mentor-oriented foundation to women's studies students, including opportunities for internships and funded research. wgs.ou.edu, University of Oklahoma, Norman Interdisciplinary MA and PhD. sas.upenn.edu/W Studies, University of Pennsylvania, Philadelphia Graduate Certificate in Women's Studies. wstudies.pitt.edu, University of Pittsburgh MA Certificate and PhD Certificate in Women's Studies. cas.sc.edu/wost, University of South Carolina, Columbia Graduate Certificate in Women's Studies. utexas.edu/cola/centers/cwgs, University of Texas, Austin Concentration in Women's Studies leads to a graduate portfolio in a specialization area of choice. departments.washington.edu/webwomen, University of Washington, Seattle Graduate Certificate in Women's Studies. grad.wisc.edu/catalog/letsci/womens.html, University of Wisconsin, Madison Graduate Certificate and PhD minor in Women's Studies. wgs.usf.edu, University of South Florida Graduate Certificate in Women's Studies. dornsife.usc.edu/gender studies/graduate, University of Southern California Graduate Certificate in Women's Studies in conjunction with other degrees. wgs.claws.vt.edu, Virginia Polytechnic Institute and State University Graduate Certificate in Women's Studies. lebarts.wsu.edu/women/graduate/index.asp, Washington State University Gender Focus in Graduate Study in American Studies, History, Political Science, and Sociology. wgss.artsci.wstl.edu/graduate, Washington University, St. Louis, Graduate Certificate in Women, Gender, and Sexuality Studies. wmsd.wvu.edu, West Virginia University, Morgantown Interdisciplinary MA in Liberal Studies with a concentration in Women's Studies. wku.edu/women's studies, Western Kentucky University Graduate Certificate, both online. Chapter 3. List of women's/gender study program websites in the United States in alphabetical order. academics.adelphi.edu/arts/ci/genders2ds, Adelphi University New York, Gender Studies Program. agnescott.edu/women's studies, Agnes Scott College GA, Women's Studies Program. albion.edu/women's studies, Albion College MI, Women's and Gender Studies. albright.edu/catalog/women's.html, Albright College PA, Women's and Gender Studies. alfred.edu/wmst, Alfred University New York, Women's Studies Program. sites.allegheny.edu/women, Allegheny College PA, Women's, Gender and Sexuality Studies. alma.edu/academics/women's-and-gender-studies, Alma College MI, Women's and Gender Studies. alverno.edu/academics/wgs/index.html, Alverno College WI, Women's and Gender Studies Program. american.edu/cas/wgs/index.cfm, American University DC, Women's, Gender and Sexuality Studies Program, Graduate Certificate in Women's, Gender and Sexuality Studies. wcl.american.edu/gender, American University DC, Washington College of Law, LLM. amherst.edu/academic-life/departments/sexuality_women's_gender_studies, Amherst College MA, Sexuality, Women's and Gender Studies. aacc.edu/gss/default.cfm, Anne Arundel Community College MD, Gender and Sexuality Studies. womenstudies.appstate.edu, Appalachian State University NC, Women's Studies Program. aquinas.edu/women's center, Aquinas College MI, Women's Studies Center. sst.clas.asu.edu/women-and-gender-studies, Arizona State University, Women and Gender Studies Program, MA. newcollege.asu.edu/HARCS/degrees/majors/women-studies-program, Arizona State University, New College, Women and Gender Studies Program. cla.auburn.edu/women's studies, Auburn University AL, Women's Studies Program. augsburg.edu/women's studies, Augsburg College MN, Women's Studies. aug.edu/women's_studies, Augusta State University GA, Women's Studies. augustana.edu/academics/women's studies/department, Augustana College IL, Women's and Gender Studies. augie.edu/departments/courses/gender_studies.html, Augustana College SD, Gender Studies Minor. austincollege.edu/category.asp?1963, Austin College TX, Gender Studies. opsu.edu/women_studies, Austin P State University TN, Women's and Gender Studies. cms.bsu.edu/academics/colleges-and-departments/wgs.aspx, Ball State University in, Women's and Gender Studies. womensstudies.barnard.edu, Barnard College New York, Department of Women's, Gender and Sexuality Studies. bates.edu/wgsd.xml, Bates College ME, Women's and Gender Studies. bellevue.edu/degrees/minor/women's-studies, Bellevue University NE, Women's Studies Minor. beloit.edu/academics/fields/majors/women's and gender studies_overview.php, Beloit College WI, Women's and Gender Studies. bemidji.state.edu/academics/majors_more/WMSD, Bemidji State University MN, Women's Studies. bennett.edu/ashome.asp, Bennett College for Women NC, Africana Women's Studies. bentley.edu/gender-studies/index.cfm, Bentley College MA, Gender Studies Minor. berea.edu/wgs, Berea College KY, Women's and Gender Studies Program. Peralta.edu/apps/comm$$1 Berkeley City College CA, Women's Studies Certificate. Berry.edu/academics/humanities/english/wns/page.aspx?id=2292, Berry College GA, Women's and Gender Studies Program. Bluegrass.kctcs.edu/humanities/women's_studies.aspx, Bluegrass Community and Technical College KY, Women's and Gender Studies. Bluffton.edu/catalog/courses/WMN/number minor, Bluffton University Women's Studies. Genderstudies.boiseastate.edu, Boise State University ID, Gender Studies Program. bc.edu/schools/cas/ws, Boston College Women's and Gender Studies. bu.edu/wgs, Boston University Women's, Gender and Sexuality Studies Program. bowdoin.edu/gender-women, Bowdoin College Gender and Women's Studies. bgsu.edu/departments/wmst, Bowling Green State University Women's, Gender and Sexuality Studies, Graduate Certificate in Women's Studies. Bradley.edu/las/wms, Bradley University IL, Women's Studies Program. Brandeis.edu/programs/wgs, Brandeis University Women's and Gender Studies, Joint Brandeis.edu/centers/wsrc, Brandeis University Women's Studies Research Center. Brandeis.edu/hirjw, Brandeis University Hadassah International Research Institute on Jewish Women. Brescia.edu/contemporary-woman-program, Brescia University KY, Contemporary Woman Program. bridgew.edu/women's studies, Bridgewater State College Women's and Gender Studies Program. womensstudies.byu.edu, Brigham Young University UT, Women's Studies. depthome.brooklyn.cuny.edu/women's/studies, Brooklyn College New York, Women's Studies. pembrookecenter.org/instruction, Brown University RI, Gender and Sexuality Studies. brynmawr.edu/femgen, Bryn Mawr College Gender and Sexuality Studies. bucknell.edu/x2949.xml, Bucknell University Women's and Gender Studies Program. bvu.edu/academics/programs-overview. Category inode =4305 Fe2-0431-4 FD3-B416-16B3A6D50E7, Buena Vista University IA, Gender and Women's Studies. cabrillo.edu/academics/women's studies, Cabrillo College CA, Women's Studies. caldwell.edu/academics/women's_studies, Caldwell College New Jersey, Department of Women's Studies. ciis.edu/academics/graduate_programs/women's_spirituality_.html, California Institute of Integral Studies, MA. callutheran.edu/schools/cas/minor_overview.php?minor_id=35, California Lutheran University, Gender and Women's Studies minor. cla.calpoly.edu/wgs, California Polytechnic State University, Women's and Gender Studies Department. csub.edu/wgs, California State University, Bakersfield, Women and Gender Studies. csuchico.edu/catalog/cat09/micrograms, California State University, Chico, Center for Multicultural and Gender Studies. cah.csudh.edu/women's studies, California State University, Dominguez Hills, Women's Studies Program. class.csueastbay.edu/women's studies, California State University, East Bay, Women's Studies Program. csu-fresno.edu/women's studies, California State University, Fresno, Women's Studies Program. hss.fullerton.edu/women's, California State University, Fullerton, Women and Gender Studies and Queer Studies. csulb.edu/colleges/CLA/departments/WGSS, California State University, Long Beach, Department of Women's, Gender and Sexuality Studies. csun.edu/tilde-ws20500/index.html, California State University, Northridge, Gender and Women's Studies. csus.edu/woms, California State University, Sacramento, Women's Studies Program. csusm.edu/women's studies, California State University, San Marcos, Women's Studies Program. catalog.csus10.edu/preview_entity.php Cato ID =3 & _oid =105 &BC =1 number sign gender, California State University, Stanislaus, Gender Studies. calu.edu/academics/women-studies/curriculum/index.htm, California University of Pennsylvania PA, Women's Studies Program. calvin.edu/academic/gender_studies, Calvin College MI, Gender Studies. canisius.edu/women's-studies/index.com, Canisius College New York, Women's Studies. strich.edu/content.aspx?ID =1478, Cardinal Stritch University MN, Women's Studies. webapps.acs.carleton.edu/curriculars/WGST, Carleton College MN, Women's and Gender Studies Program. carlo.edu/academics/schools/div-humanities/ws-major.html, Carlo University PA, Women's Studies. carthage.edu/department/wgs/course.cfm, Carthage College WI, Women and Gender Studies. cwru.edu/artsci/womn, Case Western Reserve University O, Women's and Gender Studies Program. caspercollege.edu/gender_studies/index.html, Casper College WY, Gender Studies. castleton.edu/women's studies/index.htm, Castleton State College VT, Women's and Gender Studies. cedarcrest.edu/academic2/hum/gender.shtm, Cedar Crest College PA, Gender Studies. center.edu/academics/majors-minors/gender-studies, Center College KY, Gender Studies. ccsu.edu/women's-studies, Central Connecticut State University, Women, Gender and Sexuality Studies. chsbs.cmich.edu/women's studies, Central Michigan University, Women and Gender Studies Program. cwu.edu/women-gender, Central Washington University, Women's and Gender Studies. century.edu/futurist-students/areas of study/woman and gender studies.aspx, Century College MN, Women and Gender Studies. cms.cerritos.edu/cws, Cerritos College CA, Department of Women's Studies. chaminade.edu/catalog/pdf/current/cuh_catalog_genders2ds/gr@u8 certificate-program.pdf, Chaminade University High, Gender Studies. chatham.edu/departments/global policy/undergrad/women/index.cfm, Chatham College PA, Women's Studies. ccny.cuny.edu/women's studies/women program web, City College of New York, Women's Studies Program. web.gc.cuny.edu/women's studies/index.htm, City University of New York, Graduate Certificate Program in Women's Studies, Graduate Certificate in Women's Studies. ccsf.edu/departments/women_studies, City College of San Francisco CA, Department of Women's Studies. scripscollege.edu/departments/academics/departments/w-studies.html, Claremont Colleges CA, Intercollegiate Women's Studies Program. cgu.edu/pages/1477.asp, Claremont Graduate University CA, Applied Women's Studies, Masters in Applied Women's Studies. cgu.edu/pages/1016.asp, Claremont Graduate University CA, Women's Studies in Religion. clarion.edu/1070, Clarion University of Pennsylvania, Women and Gender Studies. cau.edu/academic_prog/afr_stud/afram_ker_aws.html, Clark Atlanta University GA, Africana Women's Studies, MA. clark.edu/academics/programs/social_science/women's_studies/index.php, Clark College WA, Women's Studies. clarku.edu/departments/women's studies, Clark University MA, Women's and Gender Studies Program. virtual.clemson.edu/groups/women's studies/ws minor, Clemson University SC, Women's Studies. csuohio.edu/undergrad catalog/courses/curindex/wst.htm, Cleveland State University O, Women's Studies. coe.edu/academics/gender studies, Co College IA, Gender Studies Program. colby.edu/wgss, Colby College ME, Women's, Gender, and Sexuality Studies. departments.colgate.edu/women's_studies, Colgate University New York, Women's Studies Program. cofc.edu/wgs, College of Charleston SC, Women's and Gender Studies Program. msj.edu/academics/majors-minors-for-undergrads/women's-studies-minor, College of Mount St. Joseph O, Women's Studies Program. wgsd.intrasun.tcnj.edu, College of New Jersey formerly Trenton State College, Women's and Gender Studies. cnr.edu/academics/sas/womenstudies.html, College of New Rochelle, New York, Women's Studies. ndm.edu/academics/undergraduate majors/ids minors/women's studies.cfm, College of Notre Dame of Maryland, Women's Studies. csbsju.edu/gender studies, College of St. Benedict/St. John's University MN, Gender and Women's Studies. sdk.edu/academics/women's_studies, College of St. Catherine MN, Women's Studies. cse.edu/academics/academic-areas/human-social-dev/women-studies, College of St. Elizabeth, New Jersey, Women's Studies. stroz.edu/academics/school of arts and humanities/women's_studies, College of St. Rose, New York, Women's and Gender Studies. css.edu/academics/school-of-arts-and-letters/programs/women's-and-gender-studies.html, College of St. Scholastica MN, Women's and Gender Studies Program. csn.edu/pages/3979.asp, College of Southern Nevada, Women's Studies Program. csi.cuny.edu/catalog/undergraduates/women's-gender-and-sexuality-studies.htm, College of Staten Island, CUNY, New York, Women's, Gender, and Sexuality Studies. holycross.edu/departments/css/website/women's_studies, College of the Holy Cross MA, Women's and Gender Studies Program. wm.edu/as/gsws/index.php, College of William and Mary VA, Gender, Sexuality and Women's Studies. worcester.edu/women's_studies/site/wgss_home.html, College of Worcester O, Women's, Gender, and Sexuality Studies. coloradocollege.edu/department/fg, Colorado College CO, Feminist, and Gender Studies. Women's Studies.coloradostate.edu, Colorado State University, Fort Collins, Center for Women's Studies and Gender Research. chas.csupueblo.edu/women's studies, Colorado State University Pueblo, Women's Studies Program. column.edu/academics/institute_for_the_study_women_and_the_arts_and_media, Columbia College Chicago IL, Institute for the Study of Women and Gender in the Arts and Media. columbia.edu/cu/irwg, Columbia University New York, Institute for Research on Women and Gender, Certificate in Feminist Scholarship. ccac.edu/default.aspx?ID =1488828, Community College of Allegheny County PA, Women's Studies. ccbcmd.edu/wmsd/index.html, Community College of Baltimore County MD, Women's Studies. cuchicago.edu/academics/documents/profiles/arts/women_gender_studies.pdf, Concordia University Chicago IL, Women's and Gender Studies. camel2.concol.edu/academics/departments/GWS, Connecticut College, Program in Gender and Women's Studies. crc.los.edu/college_catalog/areas_study/interdisciplinary_studies/degrees.htm, number sign 1161, Consumnes River College CA, Interdisciplinary Studies, Women's Studies. cornellcollege.edu/women's_studies, Cornell College IA, Women's Studies Program. arts.cornell.edu/fgss, Cornell University New York, Feminist, Gender, and Sexuality Studies. curry.edu/academics/majors+minors+sign and+sign departments/minors/women+sign and+sign gender+sign studies.htm, Curry College MA, Women and Gender Studies. dartmouth.edu/w studies, Dartmouth College NH, Women's and Gender Studies Program. davidson.edu/academic/gender/gender.html, Davidson College NC, Gender Studies Concentration. deanza.edu/women's_studies, Deanza College CA, Women's Studies Department. denison.edu/academics/departments/women's studies, Denison University O, Women's Studies Program. las.depal.edu/academics/women's-and-gender-studies/pages/default.aspx, DePaul University IL, Women's and Gender Studies, MA in Women's and Gender Studies, Joint MSW/MA in Women's and Gender Studies, Graduate Certificate Program. dePau.edu/academics/departments-programs/women's-studies, DePau University in Women's Studies Department. dickinson.edu/homepage/46/women_s_and_gender_studies, Dickinson College PA, Department of Women's and Gender Studies. dom.edu/departments/women and gender, Dominican University IL, Women and Gender Studies. dominican.edu/academics/arts-sciences/arts-hum/hum/undergraduate/wgs.html, Dominican University of California CA, Women and Gender Studies. drake.edu/artsci/ws/ws.html, Drake University IA, Women's Studies Department. drew.edu/wgst/#, Drew University New Jersey, Women's and Gender Studies. drexelwomenstudies.wordpress.com, Drexel University PA, Academic Program in Women's Studies. duke.edu/womstud, Duke University NC, Women's Studies Program, Graduate Certificate in Women's Studies. liberalarts.duq.edu/women/index.html, Duquesne University PA, Center for Women's and Gender Studies, Graduate Certificate in Women's and Gender Studies. earlham.edu/wgss, Earlham College in Women's, Gender, Sexuality Studies. ecu.edu/wost, East Carolina University NC, Women's Studies Program. esu.edu/academics/undergraduate/intercultural-and-interdisciplinary-studies.cfm, East Stroudsburg University PA, Women's Studies. etsu.edu/cas/littlelang/WSP, East Tennessee State University, Women's Studies Program. history.easternct.edu/women.htm, Eastern Connecticut State University, Women's Studies Minor. eiu.edu/WS minor, Eastern Illinois University, Women's Studies. womensstudies.eku.edu, Eastern Kentucky University, Women and Gender Studies Program. emich.edu/W Studies, Eastern Michigan University, Women's and Gender Studies Program, Master of Liberal Studies in Women's and Gender Studies. enmu.edu/academics/resources/ug-catalog/interdisciplinary-programs.pdf, Eastern New Mexico University, Women's Studies Program. eou.edu/gender, Eastern Oregon University, Gender Studies. euwgs.com, Eastern Washington University, Women's and Gender Studies Program. eckerd.edu/academics/catalog/detail.php $m=$c=b$s=c=y, Eckerd College FLA, Women's and Gender Studies. edgewood.edu/academics/undergrad/women's studies, Edgewood College WI, Women's and Gender Studies Minor. elmira.edu/academics/minors/women's_studies, Elmira College New York, Women's Studies Minor. elon.edu/womengender, Elon College NC, Women's/Gender Studies Program. emmanuel.edu/departments/gender_and_women's_studies.html, Emmanuel College MA, Gender and Women's Studies. wgss.emory.edu/home/index.html, Emory University GA, Department of Women's, Gender and Sexuality Studies, Ph.D. in Women's, Gender and Sexuality Studies. emporia.edu/ethng and, Emporia State University KS, Ethnic and Gender Studies. fairfield.edu/cas/ws_index.html, Fairfield University CT, Women, Gender and Sexuality Studies. view.fdu.edu/default.aspx?ID =1454, Fairleigh Dickinson University New Jersey, Women's Studies Minor. 5colleges.edu/fcwsrc, 5 College Women's Studies Research Center MA. wise.fau.edu/women's studies, Florida Atlantic University, Boca Raton, Center for Women, Gender and Sexuality Studies, MA. fiu.edu/w studies, Florida International University, Women's Studies Center. fsu.edu/women's t, Florida State University, Women's Studies Program, Women's Studies Minor available for MA. flc.los-rios.edu/academics/interdisciplinary-studies/is-certificates?print, Folsom Lake College CA, Interdisciplinary Studies, Women's Studies. foothill.fhda.edu/programs/programs.php?rec_id=225, Foothill College CA, Women's Studies. fordham.edu/academics/programs_at_fordham_/women's_studies, Fordham University New York, Women's Studies Program. fortlouis.edu/gws/home.aspx, Fort Lewis College CO, Gender and Women's Studies. fandm.edu/wst, Franklin and Marshall College PA, Women's and Gender Studies. franklinpierce.edu/academics/ugrad/programs_of_studies/humanities/women_in-leadership/index.htm, Franklin Pierce University NH, Women in Leadership Certificate WGS Program. Fresno City College.edu/index.aspx page =800, Fresno City College CA, Women's Studies. frostburg.edu/department/womn/index.htm, Frostburg State University MD, Women's Studies Program. furman.edu/departments/wgs, Furman University SC, Women's and Gender Studies. dartmouth.edu/grid, Gender Research Institute at Dartmouth Grid, located at Dartmouth College. Grid encourages, facilitates, and showcases gender-related research, teaching, and social engagement that address why the 21st century is still a time profoundly structured by gender, racial, ethnic, sexual, and economic inequality. wmsd.gmu.edu, George Mason University VA, Women and Gender Studies Program. georgetown.college.edu/departments/ws/index.htm, Georgetown College KY, Women's Studies. wgsb.georgetown.edu, Georgetown University DC, Women's and Gender Studies Program. gwu.edu/WSDU, George Washington University DC, Women's Studies Program, MA. gcsu.edu/interdisciplinary/women's studies.htm, Georgia College and State University, Women's Studies Minor. 209.123.189.170/women's_studies/index.htm, Georgian Court University New Jersey, Women's Studies. arachnid.gsu.edu/www.wsi, Georgia State University, Women's Studies Institute, Graduate Certificate and MA. wst.gatech.edu, Georgia Tech GA, Center for the Study of Women, Science and Technology. gettysburg.edu/academics/women's_studies, Gettysburg College PA, Women, Gender and Sexuality Studies. gonzaga.edu/academics/colleges-and-arts-and-sciences/women's-studies/default.asp, Gonzaga University WA, Department of Women's and Gender Studies. goshen.edu/wost, Goshen College in, Women's Studies Department. goucher.edu/x6442.xml, Goucher College MD, Women, Gender and Sexuality Studies. web.mit.edu/gcws, Graduate Consortium in Women's Studies MA, 9 institutions. grcc.edu/women's studies, Grand Rapids Community College MI, Gender Studies. gvsu.edu/wgs, Grand Valley State University MI, Women, Gender and Sexuality Studies. web.gcc.mass.edu/gws, Greenfield Community College MA, Gender and Women's Studies. greensboro-college.edu/academics/women-and-gender-studies.cfm, Greensboro College NC, Women's and Gender Studies. grinnell.edu/academics/gwss, Grinnell College IA, Gender, Women's and Sexuality Studies. guilford.edu/academics/academic-departments/women's-gender-sexuality-studies, Guilford College NC, Women's, Gender and Sexuality Studies. gustavus.edu/academics/women's-studies/home.cfm, Gustavus Adolphus College MN, Women's Studies. hamilton.edu/academics/department=women%(27s%20 Hamilton College New York, Women's Studies. hamline.edu/cla/women's-studies, Hamline University MN, Women's Studies Program. hampshire.edu/academics/9283.hdm, Hampshire College Ma, Feminist Studies Program. uhaweb.hartford.edu/jbarstow, Hartford College for Women CT, Women's Studies Program. hartwick.edu/wgstudies.xml, Hartwick College New York, Women's and Gender Studies Minor. wgs.fas.harvard.edu/icb/icb.do, Harvard University Ma, Studies of Women, Gender and Sexuality, Graduate Secondary Field in Women, Gender and Sexuality Studies. brynmawr.edu/femgen, Haverford College PA, Gender and Sexuality Studies. hws.edu/academics/ws, Hobart and William Smith Colleges New York, Women's Studies. hofstra.edu/academics/colleges/hclas/women, Hofstra University New York, Women's Studies. hollands.edu/undergrad/women studies/wom.hdm, Hollands University VA, Gender and Women's Studies. hood.edu/academics/academic catalog/current catalog/undergraduate catalog/all minors/women's studies minor.html, Hood College MD, Women's Studies Minor. hope.edu/academic/women, Hope College MI, Women's Studies. gs.howard.edu/special%20 program/c program/women studies.htm, Howard University DC, Graduate Program in Women's Studies, Graduate Certificate in Women's Studies. humboldt.edu/crgs, Humboldt State University CA, Critical Race, Gender and Sexuality Studies. hunter.cuny.edu/wgs program/welcome-page, Hunter College, CUNY New York, Women and Gender Studies. isu.edu/women's2, Idaho State University, Women's Studies Program. ic.edu/academics/GWS, Illinois College, Gender and Women's Studies. womenstudies.ils2.edu, Illinois State University, Women's and Gender Studies Program, Graduate Certificate in Women's and Gender Studies. iwu.edu/wstudies/index.shtml, Illinois Wesleyan University, Women's Studies Program. indstate.edu/department/women's-studies, Indiana State University, Women's Studies Program. indiana.edu/gender, Indiana University, Gender Studies, ph.d. iue.edu/hss/genders-studies/minor-genders-studies.php, Indiana University East, Women's and Gender Studies. iuk.edu/academics/majors/humanities/majors_minors_programs/women's_studies_minors/index.shtml, Indiana University Kokomo, Women's Studies Program. iun.edu/wostnw, Indiana University Northwest, Women's and Gender Studies Program. ipfw.edu/wost, Indiana University/Purdue University Fort Wayne, Women's Studies Program. liberalarts.iupui.edu/wost, Indiana University/Purdue University Indianapolis, Women's Studies Program. iusb.edu/wmns, Indiana University South Bend, Women's and Gender Studies Program. ius.edu/women studies, Indiana University Southeast, Women and Gender Studies Program. iup.edu/women's, Indiana University of Pennsylvania, Women's Studies. catalog.itp.edu/preview_program.php Cato ID =3 POID =71, Institute of Transpersonal Psychology CA, MA in Women's Spirituality. iona.edu/women studies, Iona College New York, Women's Studies Program. las.iastate.edu/women's studies, Iowa State University, Women's and Gender Studies Program. ithaca.edu/hs/wsp, Ithaca College New York, Women's Studies Program. jmu.edu/Women's Studies, James Madison University VA Women's and Gender Studies Program. jts.edu/academics/programs_of_studies/Jewish_gender_studies.xml, Jewish Theological Seminary New York, Jewish Gender and Women's Studies, MA. Program in Jewish Gender and Women's Studies. web.jhu.edu/wgs/index.html, the Johns Hopkins University MD, Program for the Study of Women, Gender, and Sexuality. kzu.edu/programs/?ID=31, Kalamazoo College MI, Women, Gender, and Sexuality. ksu.edu/WOMSD, Kansas State University, Gender, Women, and Sexuality Studies Department, Graduate Certificate in Gender, Women, and Sexuality Studies. Keene.edu/women-s-studies-program, Keene University, New Jersey, Women's Studies Program. Keene.edu/catalog/programs/details/434/BA/women's_and_gender_studies, Keene State College NH, Women's and Gender Studies. gwsd.hss.kennesaw.edu, Kennesaw State University GA, Gender and Women's Studies Program. Kent.edu/Women's Studies, Kent State University O, Women's Studies Program. Kenyon.edu/department/WMNS/welcome.htm, Kenyon College O, Women's and Gender Studies Department. Indiana.edu/Kinsey, Kinsey Institute for Research in Sex, Gender, and Reproduction in. Knox.edu/Gender Women's Studies.xml, Knox College IL, Gender and Women's Studies Program. Kutztown.edu/academic/W Studies, Kutztown University PA, Women's Studies Program. wgs.lafayette.edu, Lafayette College PA, Women's and Gender Studies. laroche.edu/majors/religious-studies/discipline detail.asp discipline ID =135, La Roche College PA, Women's/Gender Studies minor. laselle.edu/academics/departments/social-sciences/minors.html #women, LaSalle University PA, Women's Studies minor. laselle.edu/admissions/minors.asp #women's, LaSalle College MA, Women's Studies minor. lawrence.edu/academics/gest, Lawrence University WI, Gender Studies. lehigh.edu/infm, Lehigh University PA, Women's Studies. lehman.cuny.edu/academics/inter/women-studies/index.php, Lehman College, CUNY New York, Women's Studies. lemoyne.edu/undergraduate/gender Women's Studies/program of study/tabid/1114/default.aspx, Le Moyne College New York, Gender and Women's Studies. leslie.edu/lc/women's studiespos.html, Leslie University MA, Women's Studies. lclark.edu/department/gender, Lewis and Clark College or Department of Gender Studies. lewisu.edu/academics/women's studies/index.htm, Lewis University IL, Women's Studies. linfield.edu/academics/major.php department =IGS, Linfield College or Gender Studies minor. lhup.edu/women/minor.htm, Lock Haven University PA, Women and Gender Studies minor. brooklyn.liu.edu/department/gender_studies, Long Island University, Brooklyn Campus, Gender Studies Program. longwood.edu/wgs, Longwood University VA, Women's and Gender Studies Program. lsu.edu/wgs, Louisiana State University, Women's and Gender Studies. bellarmine.lmu.edu/women studies, Loyola Marymount University CA, Women's Studies Program. luc.edu/departments/women_stu, Loyola University IL, Women's Studies and Gender Studies Program, Graduate Certificate and MA. loyno.edu/women's studies, Loyola University New Orleans LA, Women's Studies. womensstudies.luther.edu, Luther College IA, Women's and Gender Studies. lycoming.edu/women%27 sand gender studies/index.html, Lycoming College PA, Women's and Gender Studies. lynchburg.edu/genders studies, Lynchburg College VA, Gender Studies minor. macalester.edu/wgs, McAllister College MN, Women's, Gender and Sexuality Studies Department. mville.edu/undergraduates/academics/majors/women's-studies.html, Manhattanville College New York, Women's Studies Program. mnsfld.edu/women's2, Mansfield University PA, Women's Studies Program. marietta.edu/gendy, Marietta College O, Gender Studies Program. marist.edu/liberal arts/women's studies, Marist College New York, Women's Studies Program. marquette.edu/w studies, Marquette University WI, Women's and Gender Studies. marshall.edu/women's2, Marshall University WV, Women's Studies minor. mbc.edu/studies/women's studies, Mary Baldwin College VA, Women's Studies. maryville.edu/academics-as-women's-studies.htm, Maryville University of St. Louis MO, Women's Studies Program. mcla.edu/undergraduate/majors/women's studies, Massachusetts College of Liberal Arts, Women's Studies Program. web.mit.edu/wgs/index.html, Massachusetts Institute of Technology, Program in Women's and Gender Studies. catalog.mcdaniel.edu/preview_program.php Cato ID =3 poi d =543 return to =155, McDaniel College MD, Women's Studies Program. mcneese.edu/wmst, McNeese State University LA, Women's Studies. mec.cuny.edu/lebarts_school/ids_department, Medgar Evers College, CUNY New York, Women's Studies minor. mercer.edu/wgs, Mercer University GA, Department of Women's and Gender Studies. meredith.edu/womnstud, Meredith College NC, Women's Studies. merrimack.edu/academics/liberal_arts/women's gender studies/pages/default.aspx, Merrimack College MA, Women's and Gender Studies Program. mesacc.edu/departments/cultural-science/women's-studies, Mesa Community College AZ, Women's Studies Program. messiah.edu/academics/catalog/current/minors/soa-n/gens.pdf, Messiah College PA, Women's Studies minor. metrostate.edu/missweb/explore/catalog/undergrad/index.cfm, LVL UN section =1 and page_name =gender_studies_ba.html, Metropolitan State University MN, Gender Studies. msudenver.edu/handbook/campus-guide/women's studies services, Metropolitan State College of Denver CO, Institute for Women's Studies and Services. cas.muohio.edu/women's studies, Miami University O, Women's, Gender and Sexuality Studies. reg.msu.edu/academic program/program detail.asp program =5671, Michigan State University, Women's and Gender Studies. reg.msu.edu/academic program/text.asp section =116 number sign S1765, interdisciplinary graduate specialization in women and gender. middlebury.edu/academics/ump/majors/ws, Middlebury College VT, Women's and Gender Studies. mtsu.edu/women's2, Middle Tennessee State University, Women's and Gender Studies. millersville.edu/w studies, Millersville University PA, Women's Studies minor. mills.edu/academics/undergraduate/wgss/index.php, Mills College CA, Women's, Gender, and Sexuality Studies. millsaps.edu/academics/interdisciplinary_studies_women's_studies.php, Millsaps College MS, Women's, and Gender Studies. minneapolis.edu/educational-programs/programs/women's-studies, Minneapolis Community and Technical College MN, Women's Studies Program. sbs.mnsu.edu/women, Minnesota State University, Mankato, Gender and Women's Studies Department, m.s/m.a in Gender and Women's Studies. mnstate.edu/women, Minnesota State University, Moorhead, Women's and Gender Studies. minutes.edu.edu/gws, Minot State University ND, Gender/Women's Studies. genderstudies.msstate.edu, Mississippi State University, Gender Studies. muw.edu/wc, Mississippi University for Women, Women's Emphasis Committee. missourystate.edu/gst, Missouri State University, Gender Studies. malloy.edu/academics/undergraduate-minors/women's-studies, Malloy College New York, Women's Studies minor. department.mundam.edu/women's studies/default.htm, Monmouth College IL, Women's Studies Program. monmouth.edu/academics/gender_studies/default.asp, Monmouth University New Jersey, Gender Studies. montana.edu/lettersandScience/wost/main.html, Montana State University, Bozeman, Women's and Gender Studies. montclair.edu/chss/women's-gender-studies, Montclair State University New Jersey, Women's and Gender Studies Program. cms.montgomerycollege.edu/wgs, Montgomery College MD, Women's and Gender Studies. sunny.moreparkcollege.edu/women-ctr/degree.htm, Morepark College CA, Women's Studies Degree Program. home.moravian.edu/public/women studies/default.htm, Moravian College PA, Women's Studies. moreheadstate.edu/iwsb, Morehead State University KY, Women's Studies Program. mtholyoke.edu/academics/womst, mtholyoke College MA, Gender Studies Program. muc.edu/academics/academic_programs/gender_studies/index.aspx, Mount Union College O, Gender Studies. muhlenberg.edu/departments/interdis/wst, Muhlenberg College PA, Women's Studies. collegecatalog.ncc.edu/current/program/interdisciplinary_studies/index.html, Nassau Community College New York, Women's Studies. naz.edu/women-gender-studies, Nazareth College New York, Women and Gender Studies. nebarwesleyan.edu/academics/departments/women's studies/index.php, Nebraska Wesleyan University, Gender Studies. ncf.edu/academics/gender-studies, New College of Florida, Gender Studies. tulane.edu/nccrow/about.cfm, Newcomb College Tulane University LA, Center for Research on Women. nec.edu/academics/academic-departments/women's-studies, New England College NH, Women's Studies minor. newjerseycu.edu/minors/women's-and-gender-studies, New Jersey City University, Women's and Gender Studies Department. nmsu.edu/w studies, New Mexico State University, Women's Studies Program. newschool.edu/lang/courses-subpage.aspx?id=16636, The New School, Eugene Lang College, New York, Gender Studies. nyu.edu/fas/gender.sexuality/academic programs/academic programs.html, New York University, Program in Gender and Sexuality Studies. nyu.edu/gsas/program/Draper, New York University, Draper Interdisciplinary Program, the Draper Interdisciplinary M.A. Program in Humanities and Social Thought offers a master's degree concentration in gender politics. ncsu.edu/chas/wgs, North Carolina State University, Women's and Gender Studies, graduate minor in Women's and Gender Studies. ndsu.edu/wgs, North Dakota State University, Women and Gender Studies, graduate emphasis. neiu.edu/w studies, Northeastern Illinois University, Women's and Gender Studies Program. nau.edu/sbs/wgs, Northern Arizona University, Women's and Gender Studies Program. niu.edu/w studies, Northern Illinois University, Women's Studies Program, Graduate Certificate in Women's Studies. nku.edu/wgs, Northern Kentucky University, Women's and Gender Studies. genderstudies.northwestern.edu, Northwestern University IL, Gender Studies, Graduate Certificate in Gender Studies. Notre-Dame-College.edu/academics/arts-and-humanities/theology-philosophy-departments/minors/women-studies, Notre Dame College of Ohio, Women's Studies minor. Oakland.edu/ouws, Oakland University MI, Women and Gender Studies Program. Oakton.edu/academics/special_programs/WOM_gen_studies, Oakton Community College IL, Women's and Gender Studies Program. Oberlin.edu/GAUS, Oberlin College O, Gender and Women's Studies Program. Oglethorpe.edu/academics/undergraduate/interdisciplinary/women's_gender_studies.asp, Oglethorpe University GA, Women's and Gender Studies. wgss.osu.edu, Ohio State University, Department of Women's, Gender and Sexuality Studies, M.A. OhioU.edu/Women's Studies, Ohio University, Women's and Gender Studies Program, Graduate Certificate in conjunction with MA and PhD programs in other departments. Women.owu.edu, Ohio Wesleyan University, Women's and Gender Studies Program. olone.edu/inster/Women's Studies, Olone College CA, Gender and Women's Studies Department. womensstudies.okstate.edu, Oklahoma State University, Gender and Women's Studies. al.odu.edu/women's_studies/index.shtml, Old Dominion University VA, Department of Women's Studies, Graduate Certificate in Women's Studies. liberalarts.oregonstate.edu/slcs/wgss, Oregon State University, Women, Gender and Sexuality Studies. otterbein.edu/programs/women's_studies/index.html, Otterbein University O, Women's, Gender and Sexuality Studies Program. Oxford.emory.edu/audiences/academic-and-minors/majors-and-minors-detail.question mark inode=650006, Oxford College of Emory University GA, Women's Studies. pace.edu/pace/dyson/academic-departments-and-programs-women's-and-gender-studies, Pace University New York, Women's and Gender Studies. plu.edu/print/catalog/degrees-courses/wmsd.html, Pacific Lutheran University WA, Women's and Gender Studies. pacificu.edu/as/feministstudies/index.cfm, Pacific University or Gender and Sexuality Studies. womenstudies.psu.edu, Pennsylvania State University, Department of Women's, Gender, and Sexuality Studies, dual title Masters and Ph.D. in Women's Studies. psaria.psu.edu/academics/hss/degrees/ws/index.htm, Pennsylvania State University, Erie, Women's Studies and Gender Studies. pittstate.edu/department/women, Pittsburgh State University KS, Department of Women's Studies. pitzer.edu/academics/field_groups/gfs/gfs_site/index.html, Pitzer College CA, Gender and Feminist Studies. plymouth.edu/wm studies, Plymouth State University NH, Women's Studies Department. pointloma.edu/experience/academics/areas-study/women's-studies, Point Loma Nazarene University CA, Women's Studies. womensstudies.pomona.edu, Pomona College CA, Gender and Women's Studies. pdx.edu/ws, Portland State University or Women's, Gender, and Sexuality Studies. princeton.edu/GSS, Princeton University New Jersey, Program in Gender and Sexuality Studies. print.edu/college/academics/women's_studies/index.htm, Principia College IL, Women's Studies Program. providence.edu/wms/pages/default.aspx, Providence College RI, Women's Studies Program. cla.purdue.edu/women's-studies, Purdue University in, Women's Studies Program, Graduate Minor in Women's Studies. purduecal.edu/wost, Purdue University, Calumet, Women's Studies Program. qcpages.qc.cuny.edu/ws, Queens College, CUNY New York, Women's Studies Program. quinnipiac.edu/academics/colleges schools departments/college of arts and sciences/programs of study/interdisciplinary minors/minor in women's studies, Quinnipiac University CT, Women's Studies Minor. Radcliffe College Graduate Consortium in Women's Studies, c. web.mit.edu/gcws, Graduate Consortium in Women's Studies. gstudies.asp.radford.edu, Radford University VA, Center for Gender Studies. radford.edu/w studies, Radford University VA, Women's Studies. ramapo.edu/catalog_03_04/academic program/sshs/w studies.html, Ramapo College New Jersey, Women's and Gender Studies. rmc.edu/directories/academics/wmsd/index.asp, Randolph-Macon College VA, Women's Studies Department. randolphcollege.edu/x14016.xml, Randolph College VA, Gender Studies. colot.org, Reconstructionist Rabbinical College PA, Kolot Center for Jewish Women's and Gender Studies. regiscollege.edu/undergraduate_program/department.cfm?ID =women's_studies, Regis College MA, Women's Studies Minor. ric.edu/gender women's studies, Rhode Island College, Gender and Women's Studies Program. rhodes.edu/academics/1747.asp, Rhodes College TN, Gender and Sexuality Studies. cswgs.rice.edu, Rice University TX, Center for the Study of Women, Gender and Sexuality, Graduate Certificate. stockton.edu/eos/page.cfm?site ID =18 page ID =43, Richard Stockton College New Jersey, Women's, Gender and Sexuality Studies. Rider.edu/172_1763.htm, Rider University New Jersey, Gender and Sexuality Studies Program. Catalog.riviere.edu/preview_program.php Cato ID =72%POI D=4058, Riviere College NH, Women's Studies. RIT.edu/CLA/Women's Studies, Rochester Institute of Technology New York, Women's and Gender Studies Program. Rollins.edu/catalog/curriculum/women's_studies.html, Rollins College FL, Women's Studies Minor. Roosevelt.edu/cas/programs/wgs.aspx, Roosevelt University IL, Women's and Gender Studies, MA in Women's and Gender Studies. Rosemont.edu/uc/majors/women's-studies/index.aspx, Rosemont College PA, Women's and Gender Studies. Rowan.edu/mars/departments/women's studies, Rowan University New Jersey, Women's and Gender Studies. Sage.edu/centers/Upton, Russell Sage College New York, Upton Center for Women's Studies. irw.rutgers.edu, Rutgers University New Jersey, Institute for Research on Women. womens-studies.rutgers.edu, Rutgers University New Jersey, Women's and Gender Studies. Camden.rutgers.edu/camden/ws/index.html, Rutgers University, Camden, New Jersey, Women's and Gender Studies. womenstudies.newark.rutgers.edu, Rutgers University, Newark, New Jersey, Women's and Gender Studies, Graduate Concentration in Women's and Gender Studies. scc.losrios.edu/academics/behavioral_and social_science_division/women's_studies_program.htm, Sacramento City College CA, Women's Studies Program. Saddleback.edu/sbs/women's_and_gender_studies, Saddleback College CA, Women's and Gender Studies. svsu.edu/academic-prog/departments/gender-studies.html, Saginaw Valley State University MI, Gender Studies. web.sau.edu/women's studies, St. Ambrose University IA, Women's Studies Program. bulletin.st.cloud-state.edu/ugb/programs/ws.asp, St. Cloud State University MN, Women's Studies. sfc.edu/page.cfm?p=497, St. Francis College New York, Women's Studies. sjfc.edu/academics/arts-science/departments/gender, St. John Fisher College New York, Women and Gender Studies. stjohns.edu/academics/undergraduate/liberal arts/departments/gov_programs/minors/WGS, St. John's University New York, Women and Gender Studies Program. sju.edu/cas/gender-studies, St. Joseph's University PA, Gender Studies Program. stlu.edu/programs/gender_studies.html, St. Lawrence University New York, Gender Studies. slu.edu/womensstudies.xml, St. Louis University MO, Women's Studies Program, Graduate Concentration in Women's Studies. stmartin.edu/social_science/women's studies, St. Martin's University WA, Women's Studies Minor. stmarys.ca.edu/node/3817, St. Mary's College of California, Women's and Gender Studies. stmarys.edu/women's-studies, St. Mary's College in, Women's Studies. smcm.edu/wgsx/home.html, St. Mary's College of Maryland, Women, Gender and Sexuality Studies. academics.smcvt.edu/gws, St. Michael's College VT, Gender/Women's Studies Studies. snc.edu/wmgs, St. Norbert College WI, Women's and Gender Studies. wp.stolaf.edu/women's-gender-studies, St. Olaf College MN, Women's and Gender Studies. salem.edu/index.php (option =content &task =view &id =505 item id =963, Salem College NC, Women's Studies. salemstate.edu/academics/schools/1993.php, Salem State University MA, Women's Studies minor. sdmesa.edu/academic-programs/index.cfm Department ID =138, San Diego Mesa College CA, Women's Studies. rohan.sdsu.edu/WSWEB, San Diego State University CA, Women's Studies Department, MA in Women's Studies. sfsu.edu/bulletin/current/program/women's.htm, San Francisco State University CA, Women and Gender Studies, MA in Women and Gender Studies. stsu.edu/departments/socs/woms.htm, San Jose State University CA, Women's Studies. sac.edu/academic-progs/hss/anthrosocio/pages/default.aspx, Santa Ana College CA, Department of Anthropology, Sociology and Women's Studies. scu.edu/wgst, Santa Clara University CA, Women's and Gender Studies Program. slc.edu/catalogs/clusters/women's-studies/index.html, Sarah Lawrence College New York, Women's Studies. slc.edu/grad_women's history.php, Women's History. scripscollege.edu/department/gws/gws.html, Scripps College CA, Gender and Women's Studies Department. seattleu.edu/arts/ci/women/default.aspx?ID =984, Seattle University WA, Women and Gender Studies. shu.edu/academics/arts/ci/women's-studies-program/index.cfm, Seton Hall University New Jersey, Women and Gender Studies Program. su.edu/academics/5571AF70EB104214A1EA3B21A91AE420.ASP, Shenandoah University VA, Women's Studies. ship.edu/wst, Shippensburg University PA, Women's and Gender Studies. shoreline.edu/ias/intra-American Stud IES Women's Studies 01.htm, Shoreline Community College WA, Gender and Women's Studies. lw.siena.edu/wam/women/minor.htm, Siena College New York, Women's Studies minor. egs.sienaheights.edu, Siena Heights University MI, Ethnic and Gender Studies Program. sierra.cc.ca.us/programs/divisions/liberal arts/wom and genders/index.html, Sierra College CA, Women and Gender Studies. simmons.edu/academics/schools/college-of-arts-and-sciences/departments/women's-and-gender-studies, Simmons College MA, Department of Women's and Gender Studies. simmons.edu/about-simmons/centers-organizations-and-institutes/CGO, Simmons College MA, Center for Gender in Organizations. cms.skidmore.edu/women's_studies/index.cfm, Skidmore College New York, Women's Studies. sru.edu/pages/1568.asp, Slippery Rock University PA, Women's Studies Program. smith.edu/swg/home.html, Smith College MA, Program for the Study of Women and Gender. sonoma.edu/women studies, Sonoma State University CA, Women's and Gender Studies Program. sdstate.edu/academics/college of arts and sciences/redirect/women's studies/index.cfm, South Dakota State University, Women's Studies Program. southernct.edu/undergrad/schas/wms, Southern Connecticut State University, Women's Studies Program, MA. and Graduate Certificate in Women's Studies. siu.edu/women, Southern Illinois University at Carbondale, Women's Studies Program. cue.edu/arts and sciences/women's studies, Southern Illinois University at Edwardsville, Women's Studies Program. smu.edu/wom Gen Studies, Southern Methodist University TX, Women's and Gender Studies Program, Graduate Certificate in Women's and Gender Studies. sou.edu/women/index.html, Southern Oregon University, Women's Studies. southwestern.edu/departments/feminist, Southwestern University TX, Feminist Studies Program. smsu.edu/academics/programs/women's studies/index.cfm, Southwest Minnesota State University, Women's Studies Program. txstate.edu/micrograms, Southwest Texas State University, Center for Multicultural and Gender Studies. spelman.edu/academics/majors-and-programs/comparative-women's-studies, Spelman College GA, Comparative Women's Studies. stanford.edu/department/fem studies, Stanford University CA, Feminist Studies Program. stanford.edu/group/irwg, Stanford University CA, Institute for Research on Women and Gender. westga.edu/artsci/women, State University of West Georgia, Women's Studies Program. stetson.edu/academics/programs/132.php, Stetson University FLA, Women and Gender Studies Program. ws.cc.stonybrook.edu/women studies, Stony Brook University, Women's and Gender Studies Program, Graduate Certificate in Women's and Gender Studies. depthome.suny-suffolk.edu/selden_women's studies, Suffolk County Community College, New York, Women's Studies Program. suffolk.edu/college/13527.html, Suffolk University MA, MA in Women's Health. sulross.edu/pages/3127.asp, Sul Ross State University TX, Women's Studies. albany.edu/ws, SUNY at Albany, Women's Studies Department, MA in Women's Studies, Graduate Certificate in Women and Public Policy. wstudies.binghamton.edu, SUNY at Binghamton, Women's Studies Program. brockport.edu/wms, SUNY, the College at Brockport, Women and Gender Studies Program, focus on women and gender studies possible in MA in Liberal Studies. catalog.cortland.edu/content.php Cato ID =8 & Avoid =416, SUNY at Cortland, Women's Studies. fredonia.edu/women's studies, SUNY at Fredonia, Women's Studies. geneseo.edu/ws minor, SUNY at Geneseo, Women's Studies Program. New Paltz.edu/WMN Studies, SUNY at New Paltz, Women's Studies Program. Oneonta.edu/academics/women's, SUNY at Oneonta, Women's and Gender Studies Program. oswego.edu/academics/colleges_and/departments/interdisciplinary/women's_studies.html, SUNY at Oswego, Women's Studies Program. plattsburgh.edu/academics/GWS/major.php, SUNY at Plattsburgh, Gender and Women's Studies. potsdam.edu/academics/interdisciplinary/genders studies/index.cfm, SUNY at Potsdam, Women's and Gender Studies. purchase.edu/departments/academic programs/las/interdisciplinary/genders studies/default.aspx, SUNY at Purchase, Gender Studies Program. suschu.edu/women's_studies, Susquehanna University PA, Women's Studies Program. swarthmore.edu/gsst.xml, Swarthmore College PA, Gender and Sexuality Studies. wmgs.sbc.edu, Sweetbriar College VA, Gender Studies. womens-studies.syr.edu, Syracuse University New York, Department of Women's and Gender Studies, Graduate Certificate in Women's and Gender Studies. temple.edu/women's2, Temple University PA, Women's Studies, Graduate Certificate in Women's Studies. tnstate.edu/women's studies, Tennessee State University, Women's Studies Minor. tntech.edu/wgsm, Tennessee Technological University, Women and Gender Studies Minor. tamu.edu/wmsd, Texas A&M University, Women's Studies Program, Graduate Certificate in Women's Studies. tamiu.edu, Texas A&M International University, Women's Studies Program. womenstudies.tcu.edu, Texas Christian University, Women's Studies Program. departments.ttu.edu/w-studies, Texas Tech University, Women's Studies Program, MA Concentration in Women's Studies through Interdisciplinary Studies. twu.edu/ws, Texas Women's University, Department of Multicultural Women's and Gender Studies, Graduate Certificate, MA and Ph.D. in Multicultural Women's and Gender Studies.
trcc.com/admin/certificate_plan/certificate_prog%sign 20% sign 20 study_web page/women's studies_cert.shTML, 3 Rivers Community College CT, Women's Studies. tc3.edu/academic/d_law-women.asp, Tompkins Cortland Community College New York, Women and Gender Studies. towson.edu/cla/departments/wom and Gender, Towson University MD, Department of Women's and Gender Studies, Applied MS in Women's and Gender Studies, Graduate Certificate in Women's and Gender Studies. pages.towson.edu/itro, Towson University MD, Institute for Teaching and Research on Women. transi.edu/academics/catalog/index.htm, year equals 0809 and page equals patterns_womenstudies.htm, Transylvania University KY, Women's Studies. trincoll.edu/academics/studies/women-gender sexuality, Trinity College CT, Women, Gender, and Sexuality. trinity.edu/departments/women's_studies, Trinity University TX, Women's and Gender Studies. trinitydc.edu/academics/catalog/programs/women_studies.html, Trinity Washington University DC, Women's Studies. ll.truman.edu/ws.html, Truman State University MO, Women's and Gender Studies. ase.tufts.edu/women's studies, Tufts University MA, Women's Studies Program. tulane.edu/liberal-arts/gender-sexuality-studies, Tulane University LA, Gender and Sexuality Studies, Graduate Certificate in Gender and Sexuality Studies. union.edu/applications/catalog/departmentview.php $WG, Union College New York, Women's and Gender Studies. unitedseminary-mn.org/academics/mos.asp, United Theological Seminary MN, MA. Concentration in Women's Studies, Religion, Theology, and Ministry. womensstudies.buffalo.edu, University at Buffalo, Department of Global Gender Studies, MA. and Ph.D. in Global Gender Studies through American Studies. genderbuffalo.org, University at Buffalo, Gender Institute. uakron.edu/ws, University of Akron O, Women's Studies Program.
uah.edu/la/departments/women's-studies, University of Alabama, Huntsville, Department of Women's and Gender Studies. grs.as.ua.edu, University of Alabama, Tuscaloosa, Department of Gender and Race Studies, MA in Women's Studies. Women's.uaa.alaska.edu, University of Alaska, Anchorage, Women's Studies. uaf.edu/catalog/current/program/women_studies.html, University of Alaska, Fairbanks, Women's Studies. ws.web.arizona.edu, University of Arizona, Department of Women's Studies, Ph.D. in Women's Studies, Joint Ma/JD, Graduate Certificate in Women's Studies. uark.edu/department/h2p/gnst/gnst_09/welcome.html, University of Arkansas, Gender Studies Program. ualr.edu/anthropology/index.php/home/program/minor-in-gender-studies, University of Arkansas at Little Rock, Gender Studies Minor. womenstudies.berkeley.edu, University of California at Berkeley, Department of Gender and Women's Studies, designated emphasis in women, gender, and sexuality, undertaken along with a Ph.D. program in a degree-granting department. bbrg.berkeley.edu, University of California at Berkeley, Beatrice Bain Research Group. wms.ucdavis.edu, University of California at Davis, Women and Gender Studies, designated emphasis in feminist theory and research offered in conjunction with selected Ph.D. programs. hnet.uci.edu/women's studies, University of California Irvine, program in women's studies, designated graduate emphasis in feminist studies. wsp.ucla.edu, University of California Los Angeles UCLA, Women's Studies Program, MA. and Ph.D. in Women's Studies. womenstudies.ucr.edu, University of California at Riverside, Women's Studies Department. cgs.ucsd.edu, University of California, San Diego, Critical Gender Studies. womsd.ucsb.edu, University of California at Santa Barbara, Department of Feminist Studies, MA. and Ph.D. in Feminist Studies. feministstudies.ucsc.edu, University of California at Santa Cruz, Feminist Studies Department, graduate emphasis. Students may obtain a parenthetical notation in feminist studies on their Ph.D. degree in the following fields: anthropology, history, history of consciousness, literature, psychology, sociology. womensstudies.cah.ucf.edu, University of Central Florida, Women's Studies Program. ucmo.edu/women's studies, University of Central Missouri, Center for Women's and Gender Studies, Graduate Certificate in Women's and Gender Studies. ucok.edu/women's_studies, University of Central Oklahoma, Women's Studies Minor. humanities.uchicago.edu/org/cgs, University of Chicago IL, Center for Gender Studies. asweb.artsci.uc.edu/women's_studies, University of Cincinnati O, Department of Women's, Gender, and Sexuality Studies, MA, Joint M.A/J.D, and Graduate Certificate in Women's, Gender, and Sexuality Studies. colorado.edu/arts-sciences/women studies, University of Colorado, Boulder, Women and Gender Studies Program. uccs.edu/west, University of Colorado, Colorado Springs, Women's and Ethnic Studies. carbon.cu denver.edu/public/ict/women.html, University of Colorado, Denver, WS Certificate Program, Graduate Certificate in Women's Studies. womens.studies.yukon.edu, University of Connecticut, Women's Studies Program, Graduate Certificate in Women's Studies. Stanford.uconn.edu/WGSS, University of Connecticut, Stamford, Women's, Gender, and Sexuality Studies. artssciences.udayton.edu/departments_programs/women_and_gender_studies, University of Dayton O, Women's, and Gender Studies Program. udel.edu/women's studies, University of Delaware, Women's Studies Program. du.edu/gwsd, University of Denver CO, Gender and Women's Studies Program. liberalarts.udmercy.edu/programs/special/WGS, University of Detroit, Mercy MI, Women's and Gender Studies Program. evansville.edu/areas of study/women's studies, University of Evansville in, Women's Studies. web.wst.ufl.edu, University of Florida, Center for Women's Studies and Gender Research, MA, Master of Women's Studies, Graduate Certificate in Women's Studies, Ph.D. Concentration, and Joint JD/MA. uga.edu/IWS, University of Georgia, Institute for Women's Studies, Graduate Certificate. admission.hartford.edu/studying/colleges/desk/as/genders2ds.php, University of Hartford CT, Gender Studies. uhh.hawaii.edu/academics/women's University of Hawaii, Hilo, Women's Studies Certificate Program. soc.hawaii.edu/css/department/ws, University of Hawaii at Manoa, Women's Studies Program, Graduate Certificate in Advanced Women's Studies. class.uh.edu/ws/default.asp, University of Houston TX, Women's Studies Program, Interdisciplinary Graduate Certificate in Women's Studies. prtl.uhcl.edu/portal/page/portal/hsH/home/programs/ws, University of Houston, Clear Lake TX, Women's Studies. uidaho.edu/ls/womst, University of Idaho, Women's Studies Program. uic.edu/department/wsweb/wsweb.html, University of Illinois at Chicago, Gender and Women's Studies, Graduate Concentration. uic.edu/departments/crwg, University of Illinois at Chicago, Center for Research on Women and Gender. uis.edu/women and gender studies, University of Illinois at Springfield, Department of Women and Gender Studies, Graduate Certificate in Women and Gender Studies. gws.illinois.edu, University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign, Gender and Women's Studies, Graduate Minor. uiowa.edu/women, University of Iowa, Department of Women's Studies, Ph.D. in Women's Studies, Ph.D. program temporarily suspended. wgss.ku.edu, University of Kansas, Women, Gender, and Sexuality Studies Program, Graduate Certificate and Ph.D. in Women, Gender, and Sexuality Studies. gws.as.uky.edu, University of Kentucky, Department of Gender and Women's Studies, Graduate Certificate and Ph.D. in Gender and Women's Studies. sites.laverne.edu/gender-studies, University of La Verne CA, Women's, Gender, and Sexuality Studies. louisville.edu/wgs, University of Louisville KY, Women's and Gender Studies Department, MA and Graduate Certificate in Women's and Gender Studies. women.umf.maine.edu, University of Maine at Farmington, Women's and Gender Studies Program. umaine.edu/wic/wst/wst.htm, University of Maine, Orono, Women's Studies, Interdisciplinary Graduate Concentration in Women's Studies to enhance Master's and Ph.D. gwsd.umbc.edu, University of Maryland, Baltimore County, Gender and Women's Studies Program, Post-Baccalaureate Certificate in Gender and Women's Studies. womensstudies.umd.edu, University of Maryland, College Park, Department of Women's Studies, ph.d. umass.edu/wos University of Massachusetts at Amherst, Women's Studies Program, Graduate Certificate in Advanced Feminist Studies. umb.edu/academics/CLA/women, University of Massachusetts, Boston, Women's Studies Department. umassd.edu/WMS, University of Massachusetts, Dartmouth, Women's Studies Program. uml.edu/college/arts_sciences/gender_studies/default.html, University of Massachusetts at Lowell, Gender Studies. isc.memphis.edu/WMSD, University of Memphis TN, Women's and Gender Studies Program. as.miami.edu/WGS, University of Miami, Coral Gables FLA, Women's and Gender Studies. lsa.umich.edu/women, University of Michigan, Ann Arbor, Women's Studies Program. umich.edu/SU, University of Michigan, Center for the Education of Women. kl.umd.umich.edu/WGSD, University of Michigan, Dearborn, Women's and Gender Studies. flint.edu/WGS, University of Michigan, Flint, Women's and Gender Studies Program. umn.edu/ws/main/index.php, University of Minnesota, Duluth, Women's Studies Department. morris.umn.edu/academics/women's_studies, University of Minnesota, Morris, Women's Studies. women's2d.cla.umn.edu, University of Minnesota Twin Cities, Gender, Women and Sexuality Studies, ph.d. and Graduate Minor in Feminist Studies. cla.umn.edu/cafs, University of Minnesota Twin Cities, Center for Advanced Feminist Studies. olemis.edu/departments/sarah_esom_center, University of Mississippi, Sarah Esom Center, Gender Studies. wgsd.missouri.edu, University of Missouri, Columbia, Women's and Gender Studies Program, Graduate Minor. cas.umkc.edu/wgs, University of Missouri, Kansas City, Women's and Gender Studies Program. umcel.edu/artscience/iwgs/iwgs.html, University of Missouri, St. Louis, Institute for Women's and Gender Studies, Graduate Certificate in Women's and Gender Studies. cas.umt.edu/wsprog, University of Montana, Department of Women's and Gender Studies. unk.edu/academics/women's studies.aspx?id =2914, University of Nebraska, Kearney, Women's and Gender Studies Program. unl.edu/women's sb/index.shtml, University of Nebraska, Lincoln, Women's and Gender Studies Program. unomaha.edu/wmsd, University of Nebraska, Omaha, Women's Studies. unlv.edu/colleges/liberal_arts/women's_studies, University of Nevada, Las Vegas, Women's Studies Program, Graduate Certificate in Women's Studies. unr.edu/cla/women's studies, University of Nevada, Reno, Women's Studies Program, MA. and Graduate Certificate in Gender, Race and Identity. une.edu/cas/women's, University of New England, Biddeford, ME, Women's Studies Minor. unh.edu/women's-studies, University of New Hampshire, Women's Studies Program. unm.edu/women's t, University of New Mexico, Women's Studies Department. uno.edu/cola/women's-gender-studies, University of New Orleans, LA, Women's and Gender Studies. una.edu/women's studies, University of North Alabama, Center for Women's Studies. wgss.unca.edu, University of North Carolina at Asheville, Women's, Gender, and Sexuality Studies Program. ibiblio.org/cherry-b/women/wsbhome.html, University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill, Women's Studies. Women's and Gender Studies.uncc.edu, University of North Carolina at Charlotte, Women's and Gender Studies Program. uncg.edu/wms, University of North Carolina, Greensboro, Women's and Gender Studies Program, Graduate Certificate and MA in Women's and Gender Studies. uncw.edu/wsrc/Women's Studies Minor.html, University of North Carolina, Wilmington, Women's and Gender Studies Minor. arts-sciences.und.edu/women-and-gender-studies, University of North Dakota, Women and Gender Studies Program. unco.edu/genderstudies, University of Northern Colorado, Gender Studies. uni.edu/women studies, University of Northern Iowa, Women's and Gender Studies Program. womensstudies.unt.edu, University of North Texas, Women's and Gender Studies Program. nd.edu/gender, University of Notre Dame in, Gender Studies Department. wgs.ou.edu, University of Oklahoma, Women's and Gender Studies Program, Graduate Certificate in Women's and Gender Studies. uoregon.edu/WGS, University of Oregon, Women's and Gender Studies, Graduate Certificate. csws.uoregon.edu, University of Oregon, Center for the Study of Women in Society. sas.upenn.edu/GSWS, University of Pennsylvania, Gender, Sexuality and Women's Studies Program, Graduate Certificate. wstudies.pitt.edu, University of Pittsburgh PA, Gender, Sexuality and Women's Studies Program, Master's and Doctoral Certificates in Gender, Sexuality and Women's Studies. upg.pitt.edu/_docs/gnderminer.pdf, University of Pittsburgh at Greensburg PA, Gender Studies Minor. pugetsound.edu/x4976.xml, University of Puget Sound WA, Gender Studies. redlands.edu/x27437.asp, University of Redlands, Women's and Gender Studies Program. web.uri.edu/gws, University of Rhode Island, Gender and Women's Studies Program. wgss.richmond.edu, University of Richmond VA, Women, Gender and Sexuality Studies. rochester.edu/college/wst, University of Rochester, New York, Susan B. Anthony Institute for Gender and Women's Studies. sdthomas.edu/women's studies, University of St. Thomas MN, Women's Studies. san diego.edu/gender, University of San Diego CA, Gender Studies. academic.uofs.edu/department/W Studies, University of Scranton PA, Women's Studies Concentration. cas.sc.edu/wost/index.html, University of South Carolina, Columbia, Women's and Gender Studies, Graduate Certificate. uscupstate.edu/academics/arts_sciences/women's_studies/default.aspx, University of South Carolina, Upstate, Center for Women's and Gender Studies. usd.edu/wmsd, University of South Dakota, Women's Studies Program. wgs.usf.edu, University of South Florida, Department of Women's and Gender Studies, MA. usc.edu/department/las/gsp, University of Southern California, Gender Studies Program, Graduate Certificate in Gender Studies. usi.edu/lebarts/gender, University of Southern Indiana, Gender Studies. usm.maine.edu/wst, University of Southern Maine, Women's and Gender Studies Program.
ut.edu/detail.aspx?ID =2626, University of Tampa FL, Women's Studies minor. web.utk.edu/w study, University of Tennessee, Knoxville, Women's Studies. uta.edu/women's_studies, University of Texas at Arlington, Women's Studies Program. utexas.edu/cola/centers/cwgs, University of Texas at Austin, Center for Women's and Gender Studies, Master's Degree in Women's and Gender Studies. utdallas.edu, University of Texas, Dallas, Gender Studies Program. utep.edu/women's, University of Texas, El Paso, Women's Studies, Graduate Certificate in Women's and Gender Studies. colfa.utsa.edu/advising/majors/ws/ws0810.pdf, University of Texas, San Antonio, Women's Studies. web.pacific.edu/x7395.xml, University of the Pacific CA, Gender Studies. sewanee.edu/women's studies, University of the South Sewanee TN, Women's Studies minor. utoledo.edu/LLSS/WGST, University of Toledo O, Department of Women's and Gender Studies, Graduate Certificate in Women's and Gender Studies. orgs.utulsa.edu/women's studies, University of Tulsa OK, Women's and Gender Studies Program. genderstudies.utah.edu, University of Utah, Gender Studies Program. uvm.edu/WMSD, University of Vermont, Women's and Gender Studies Program. wgs.virginia.edu, University of Virginia, Women, Gender, and Sexuality Program. departments.washington.edu/web women, University of Washington, Seattle, Women's Studies Department, MA, PhD, and Graduate Certificate in Women's Studies. uwf.edu/women's, University of West Florida, Women's Studies Program. uwsa.edu/academic/women's, University of Wisconsin System, Women's Studies Consortium. uec.edu/wmns, University of Wisconsin, Eau Claire, Women's Studies. uwgb.edu/w studies, University of Wisconsin, Green Bay, Women's Studies. uwlax.edu/wgss, University of Wisconsin, La Crosse, Department of Women's, Gender, and Sexuality Studies. polyglot.lss.wisc.edu/WSP, University of Wisconsin, Madison, Gender and Women's Studies Department, ph.d. history.wisc.edu/pgwh/pgwh.hdm, Women's History. uwm.edu/women's-gender-studies, University of Wisconsin, Milwaukee, Women's and Gender Studies, Graduate Certificate, MA. uwosh.edu/departments/women's-studies, University of Wisconsin, Oshkosh, Women's Studies Program. oldweb.uwp.edu/academic/women's.studies, University of Wisconsin, Parkside, Women's Studies Program. uwplat.edu/WS Program, University of Wisconsin, Platteville, Women's Studies Department. uwrf.edu/women's_studies, University of Wisconsin, River Falls, Women's Studies Program. uwsb.edu/women's2d, University of Wisconsin, Stevens Point, Women's Studies Program. uwstout.edu/programs/minors/ws, University of Wisconsin, Stout, Women's Studies Minor. frontpage.uwsuper.edu/wsbage, University of Wisconsin, Superior, Women's and Gender Studies Program. uww.edu/academics/majors/factsheets/women.php, University of Wisconsin, Whitewater, Women's Studies Program.
uwyo.edu/wmsd, University of Wyoming, Laramie, Department of Gender and Women's Studies, Graduate Minor in Gender and Women's Studies. asenas.edu/netcommunity/page.aspx?PID =821, Asenas College PA, Gender and Women's Studies. usu.edu/Women's Studies, Utah State University, Women and Gender Studies Program. valdosta.edu/Women's Studies, Valdosta State University GA, Women's and Gender Studies. valpo.edu/gens2, Valparaiso University in Gender Studies. vanderbilt.edu/women's-studies, Vanderbilt University TN, Women's and Gender Studies. vanderbilt.edu/divinity/carpenter.php, Vanderbilt University TN, Carpenter Program in Religion, Gender and Sexuality, Divinity School Graduate Certificate in Religion, Gender and Sexuality. gcwj.vanguard.edu, Vanguard University CA, Global Center for Women and Justice. Women's Studies.vassar.edu, Vassar College New York, Women's Studies Program. villanova.edu/artsci/GWS, Villanova University PA, Gender and Women's Studies Program. has.vcu.edu/WST, Virginia Commonwealth University, Department of Women's Studies. idsd.vt.edu/WS, Virginia Tech, Women's and Gender Studies Program, Graduate Certificate in Women's and Gender Studies. vwc.edu/academics/programs/wgs/index.php, Virginia Wesleyan College, Women's and Gender Studies. viterbo.edu/women.aspx?ID=113, Viterbo University WI, Women's Studies. wabash.edu/academics/overview.cfm ?ID=ID=12, Wabash College in Gender Studies. wfu.edu/academics/wgs, Wake Forest University NC, Women's and Gender Studies. warren-wilson.edu/academics/catalog/catalog2.php ?name=Women's_program, Warren Wilson College NC, Gender and Women's Studies. wartburg.edu/catalog/wsprog.pdf, Wartburg College IA, Women's Studies. washjeff.edu/content.aspx ?section $916 menu _ID $249 crum $229 ID $773, Washington and Jefferson College PA, Gender and Women's Studies. wlu.edu/x12445.xml, Washington and Lee University VA, Women's and Gender Studies Program. lebarts.wsu.edu/women, Washington State University, Pullman WA, Department of Women's Studies, MA. ascc.artsci.wstl.edu/women, Washington University MO, Women, Gender and Sexuality Studies, Graduate Certificate. clasweb.clas.wayne.edu/gsw, Wayne State University MI, Gender, Sexuality and Women's Studies Program. programs.weber.edu/women's studies, Weber State University UT, Women's Studies Program. webster.edu/academic affairs/ws/index.html, Webster University MO, Women's Studies Program. wellesley.edu/women's-t/index.html, Wellesley College MA, Women's Studies Department. wcwonline.org, Wellesley College MA, Wellesley Centers for Women. wells.edu/academic/women's_studies.htm, Wells College New York, Women's Studies. wesleyan.edu/fgss, Wesleyan University CT, Feminist, Gender and Sexuality Studies. wcupa.edu/women's studies, Westchester University of Pennsylvania, Women's and Gender Studies. wcu.edu/6386.asp, Western Carolina University NC, Women's Studies Program. wcsu.ctstatu.edu/Women's Studies, Western Connecticut State University, Women's Studies Program. wiu.edu/Women's Studies, Western Illinois University, Department of Women's Studies. wku.edu/department/academic/graduate/W-study, Western Kentucky University, Women's Studies Program. wmh.edu/gender, Western Michigan University, Gender and Women's Studies. www.edu/online_catalog/academic_programs/undergrad/degree_requirements.php?gender_studies, Western Oregon University, Gender Studies. www.edu/departments/women's studies, Western Washington University, Women's Studies Program. wsc.ma.edu/women's t, Westfield State College MA, Women's Studies Program. wvu.edu/WMSD, West Virginia University, Center for Women's Studies, Graduate Certificate in Women's Studies, Women's Studies Directed MA. wheatonma.edu/academic/academic department/women's studies/text/home.html, Wheaton College MA, Women's Studies Program. whitman.edu/gender_studies, Whitman College WA, Gender Studies. whitworth.edu/academic/department/women's studies/index.htm, Whitworth College WA, Women's and Gender Studies Program. whittier.edu/academics/gender and women's studies, Whittier College CA, Gender and Women's Studies. webs.wichita.edu/wmstudy, Wichita State University KS, Center for Women's Studies. science.widener.edu/ws/womenstudies.html, Widener University PA, Women's Studies Minor. willamette.edu/cla/w studies, Willamette University or Women's and Gender Studies. wpunewjersey.edu/cohss/women, William Patterson University New Jersey, Department of Women's Studies. williams.edu/women's studies, Williams College MA, Women's and Gender Studies. wilson.edu/minor-women's-studies, Wilson College PA, Women's Studies Program. winona.edu/women's studies/default.htm, Winona State University MN, Women's and Gender Studies Program. winthrop.edu/wmsd minor, Winthrop University SC, Women's Studies Program. wittenberg.edu/academics/women_studies, Wittenberg University O, Women's Studies Program. worcester.edu/academics/shared%20 documents/departments/women's studies.aspx, Worcester State College MA, Women's Studies. wright.edu/cola/prog/wms, Wright State University O, Women's Studies Program, Women's Studies Focus in Master of Humanities degree. xavier.edu/cas/about/gender-and-diversity-studies.cfm, Xavier University O, Gender and Diversity Studies Minor. yale.edu/wgss, Yale University CT, Women's, Gender and Sexuality Studies, Graduate Qualification in Women's, Gender and Sexuality Studies. goose.ycp.edu/Jamberg, York College of Pennsylvania, Women's and Gender Studies. ysu.edu/women's studies, Youngstown State University O, Women's Studies. Chapter 4. Women's Studies Programs by State in the United States. artemisguide.com. Alabama. auburn.edu/academic/other/women's_studies, Auburn University. uah.edu/colleges/liberal/women's studies, University of Alabama, Huntsville. as.ua.edu/ws, University of Alabama, Tuscaloosa/b.a/m.a. Arizona. wgs.asu.edu, Arizona State University, Tempe/B.A/PhD. west.asu.edu/wsteam, Arizona State University West, Phoenix/B.A/B.S/certificate. nau.edu/%7 use T, Northern Arizona University, Flagstaff/B.S/B.A/B.A. with honors/graduate certificate. Arizona.edu/%7 use, University of Arizona, Tucson/B.A/M.A/PhD. California. CIIS.edu/grad degree/WSE.html, California Institute of Integral Studies, San Francisco, graduate study in women's spirituality. callutheran.edu/admissions/undergraduate/academics/minor.php?minor_id=35, California Lutheran, Thousand Oaks. cla.calpoly.edu/wgs, California Polytechnic State University, San Luis Obispo. csuchico.edu, California State University at Chico. csufresno.edu/catoffice/current/womstud.html, California State University at Fresno/B.A. hss.fullerton.edu/women's, California State University, Fullerton/B.A. csulb.edu/departments/women's-studies, California State University at Long Beach/B.A. csulb.edu/centers/WRC, Women's Resource Center. csun.edu/%7 use 20500/index.html, California State University at Northbridge/B.A. csuzm.edu/women's_studies, California State University at San Marcos/B.A/liberal studies special field. catalog.csustan.edu/preview_entity.php ? Cato ID =3 and _oid =105, California State University Stanislaus, Turlock, BA in Gender Studies/minor in Gender Studies/Social Sciences, concentration in Gender Studies. The program is located within the Department of Ethnic and Gender Studies. cgu.edu/pages/1477.asp, Claremont Graduate University, Women's Studies in Religion MA. nph.d. cgu.edu/interdis/aws/index.html, MA in Applied Women's Studies. Dominican.edu/academics/arts sciences/arts hum/hum/undergraduate/wgs.html, Dominican University of California, San Rafael, BA. Humboldt.edu/%7 women SST, Humboldt State University, Arcata/B.A/certificate/interdisciplinary minor through multicultural queer studies. Bellarmine.lmu.edu/women studies, Loyola Marymount University, Los Angeles. mills.edu/academics/undergraduate/WMST, Mills College, Oakland, minor/B.A. mpc.edu/student services/women's programs/pages/default.aspx, Monterey Peninsula College, associate in arts degree. msmc.la.edu/academics/majors programs/women's_studies/women.htm, Mount St. Mary's College, Los Angeles. toytp.edu/academics/rsma/wsma.php, Institute of Transpersonal Psychology, same program and same directors. Main change: it is now a 2-year program rather than a possible 1-year program. Palo Alto, MA in Women's Spirituality. oxy.edu/academia/ac-adepts/women's-td.htm, Occidental College, Los Angeles, minor/B.A. pitzer.edu/academics/registrar/gender.html, Pitzer College, Claremont, Gender and Feminist Studies concentration. pomona.edu/academics/department/soc/ci/women.html, Pomona College, Claremont, interdisciplinary concentration with another discipline. pointloma.edu/undergraduate catalog/courses/women's studies/women's studies minor.htm, Point Loma Nazarene University. stsu.edu/departments/socs/woms.htm, San Jose State University. rohan.sdsu.edu/department/wsweb/index.html, San Diego State University, minor/b.a/masters. sfsu.edu/wgs department, San Francisco State University/b.a/masters. scu.edu/wgst, Santa Clara University/b.a. scripps.col.edu, Scripps College, Claremont/b.a. sonoma.edu/women's studies, Sonoma State University, Rohnert Park, Special BA in Gender Studies/career minor in Women's Health/Women's Studies minor. stanford.edu/department/fem studies, Stanford University. leland.stanford.edu/group/irwg, Institute for Research on Women and Gender. Women's Studies.berkeley.edu, University of California at Berkeley, minor/b.a. Working on approval for graduate program. wms.ucdavis.edu, University of California at Davis, minor/b.a. hnet.uci.edu/women's studies, University of California at Irvine/b.a/graduate feminist emphasis. women.ucla.edu, University of California at Los Angeles, b.a/m.a/phd. womensstudies.ucr.edu, University of California at Riverside/b.a. muir.ucsd.edu/instructional/critical-gender/index.html, University of California at San Diego/b.a. feministstudies.ucsc.edu, University of California at Santa Cruz, B.A. san diego.edu/cas/gender/program/minor.php, University of San Diego. womsd.ucsb.edu/index.html, University of California at Santa Barbara/b.a/interdisciplinary doctoral emphasis with other departments. laverne.edu/academics/gender-studies, University of La Verne. In Women, Gender, and Sexuality Studies. redlands.edu/x27437.asp, University of Redlands. usc.edu/department/las/gsp/index.html, University of Southern California, Los Angeles/b.a/graduate certificate. usc.edu/department/cfr, Center for Feminist Research. Colorado. coloradocollege.edu/department/fg, Colorado College/b.a. wps.coloradostate.edu/women's-studies.aspx, Colorado State University, Fort Collins, undergraduate and graduate certificate program. chas.colostate-pueblo.edu/women's studies, Colorado State University Pueblo. mscd.edu/%7e women, Metropolitan State College of Denver/b.a. colorado.edu/ucb/academic affairs/arts sciences/women's studies, University of Colorado, Boulder/b.a. web.uccs.edu/wmsd/index.html, University of Colorado, Colorado Springs. carbon.cu denver.edu/public/ict, University of Colorado, Denver, interdisciplinary graduate program. du.edu/gwst, University of Denver/b.a. with double BA including women's studies. Connecticut. Wesleyan.edu/fgss, Wesleyan University, Middletown/b.a. southernct.edu/women's studies, Southern Connecticut State University, New Haven/m.a. trincoll.edu/academics/study/women gendron sexuality/default.htm, Trinity College, Hartford, interdisciplinary minor/b.a. trincoll.edu/academics/study/women gendron sexuality/default.htm, Women Gender Resource Action Center, Trinity College. womens.studies.uconn.edu, University of Connecticut, Stores, Delaware. udel.edu/women's studies, University of Delaware, Newark/b.a. District of Columbia. American.edu/academic.departments/cas/wgs, American University, minor/b.a. gwu.edu/%sign 7 use 2, George Washington University/interdisciplinary, Florida. Eckerd.edu/academics/genders studies, Eckerd College, St. Petersburg, minor/b.a. fau.edu/women's studies, Florida Atlantic University, Boca Raton, certificate program/m.a. fiu.edu/%sign 7 EU studies, Florida International University, Miami/certificate/b.a. fsu.edu/%sign 7 EU OMNST, Florida State University, Tallahassee/b.a. womensstudies.cah.ucf.edu, University of Central Florida, Orlando/graduate certificate. clas.ufl.edu/wst/index.html, University of Florida, Gainesville/b.a/m.a. uwf.edu/women's, University of West Florida, Pensacola/certificate. womens-studies.usf.edu, University of South Florida, Tampa, Georgia. agnescott.edu/academics/undergraduate/women's studies, Agnes Scott College, Decatur, minor/b.a. aug.edu/women's_studies, Augusta State University, Augusta. berry.edu/academics/humanities/women's_studies/index.asp, Berry College, Rome/b.a through interdisciplinary studies program. brinaugh.edu/sfah/humanities/gs, the Women's College at Brenaugh University, Gainesville. cau.edu/academics_curriculum_women_aas.aspx, Clark Atlanta University Africana Women's Studies, minor/b.a/m.a/phd. emory.edu/women's_studies, Emory University, Atlanta, minor/b.a/phd. wst.giatech.edu, Georgia Institute of Technology. gsu.edu/%sign 7 uwwsi, Georgia State University, Atlanta/b.a/m.a. mercer.edu/wgs, Mercer University, Macon/b.a. spelman.edu/academics/programs/women, Spelman College, Atlanta/b.a. westga.edu/%sign 7 irtsi/women, State University of West Georgia, Carrollton, minor. uga.edu/%sign 7 usp, University of Georgia at Athens. valdosta.edu/academics/colleges_divisions.html, Valdosta State University, Hawaii. womensstudies.hawaii.edu, University of Hawaii, Honolulu/b.a. Idaho. genderstudies.boiseastate.edu, Boise State University. isu.edu/departments/women's 2, Idaho State University, Pocatello, interdisciplinary minor. uidaho.edu/ls/womst, University of Idaho, Moscow, Illinois. augustana.edu, Augustana College, Rock Island. bradley.edu, Bradley University, Peoria. condor.depal.edu/%7 EWMS, DePaul University, Chicago /B.A/graduate level concentration through Masters in Liberal Studies or in Interdisciplinary Studies. womenstudies.ils2.edu, Illinois State University in Normal. iwu.edu, Illinois Wesleyan University, Bloomington. knox.edu/academic/courses_courses_of_study.html, Knox College, Galesburg, Interdisciplinary BA. luc.edu/women's studies, Loyola University of Chicago. department.mundam.edu/women's studies/default.htm, Monmouth College, minor. neiu.edu/%7 EU Studies, Northeastern Illinois University in Chicago, minor/awaiting BA approval. clas.niu.edu/W Studies, Northern Illinois University, minor/graduate concentration. genderstudies.northwestern.edu, Northwestern University, Evanston, adjunct minor/B.A/graduate certificate. roosevelt.edu/cas/wgs/default.htm, Roosevelt University, Chicago, minor/M.A. cue.edu/ws, Southern Illinois University, interdisciplinary minor. genderstudies.uchicago.edu, University of Chicago. uic.edu/department/wsweb/wsweb.html, University of Illinois at Chicago/B.A. uis.edu/women and gender studies, University of Illinois at Springfield/B.A/M.A. womsdd.uiuc.edu, University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign/B.A. wiu.edu/users/miwsb, Western Illinois University in Macomb/B.A/M.A. Indiana. bsu.edu/women's studies, Ball State University, Muncie/B.A. indstate.edu/wmn study, Indiana State University, Terre Haute/graduate certificate. indiana.edu/%7 e-gender, Indiana University, Bloomington/B.A/PhD minor. ipfw.edu/wost, Indiana University, Purdue University, Fort Wayne/B.A. iusb.edu/%7 eumns, Indiana University of South Bend, Associate of Arts with concentration in Women's Studies/B.A. goshen.edu/wost/main.html, Goshen College. manchester.edu/academics/gender_studies/index.htm, Manchester College, North Manchester. sla.purdue.edu/women's-studies, Purdue University, West Lafayette/B.A/graduate minor. calumet.purdue.edu/wost, Purdue University Calumet, Hammond/Associate of Arts concentration. calumet.purdue.edu/public/wost, the University of Evansville. nd.edu/%7 e-gender, University of Notre Dame, South Bend, Iowa. web.bvu.edu/academics/w studies, Buena Vista University, Storm Lake. drake.edu/artsci/ws/ws.html, Drake University, Des Moines, concentration. grinnell.edu/academic/gwsc, Grinnell College, Grinnell, concentration. las.iastate.edu/women's studies, Iowa State University, Ames/B.A. womenstudies.luther.edu, Luther College, Decorah, minor/B.A. simpson.edu/women/index.html, Simpson College, Indianola. sau.edu/women's studies, St. Ambrose University, Davenport. uiowa.edu/%7 e-women, University of Iowa, Iowa City/PhD. uni.edu/Women Studies, University of Northern Iowa, Cedar Falls/M.A. Kansas. ksu.edu/WOMST, Kansas State University, Manhattan/B.A/Graduate Certificate for MA, MS, Ph.D. womenandgender.ku.edu, University of Kansas Lawrence, B.A. webs.wichita.edu/?U=Women Studies, Wichita State University. Kentucky. berea.edu/catalog/dpc/wst-prg.asp, Berea College/b.a. brescia.edu/academics/divisions_and_schools/humanities/programs.php, Brescia University, Owensboro. womensstudies.eku.edu, Eastern Kentucky University, Richmond. morehead.edu/iwsb/index.aspx?id=1129, Morehead State University. nku.edu/%7ewms, Northern Kentucky University. uky.edu/arts-sciences/women studies, University of Kentucky, Lexington/graduate certificate. href https://louisville.edu/wgs, University of Louisville/b.a/m.a. wku.edu/department/academic/graduate/w-study, Western Kentucky University, Bowling Green/graduate and online certificates. Louisiana. centenary.edu/programs/gender, Centenary College, Shreveport. lsu.edu/wgs, Louisiana State University, Baton Rouge/b.a. loyola.edu/womens.center, Loyola University, New Orleans. mcneese.edu/colleges/lib/wmst, McNeese State University, Lake Charles, concentration. tulane.edu/%7ewc/text/html, Newcomb College Center for Research on Women, Tulane University, New Orleans/b.a. tulane.edu/women's2, Tulane University, New Orleans/b.a/graduate certificate program in gender and sexuality studies. cola.uno.edu/ws, University of New Orleans, interdisciplinary minor/concentration major. Maine. bates.edu/pub/department letters/women's.studies.html, Bates College, Lewiston, concentration. academic.bowdoin.edu/women studies, Bowdoin College, Brunswick/b.a. colby.edu/women's.studies, Colby College, Waterville. usm.maine.edu/wst, University of Southern Maine, Gorham/b.a. Maryland. goucher.edu/academics/academics_index.html, Goucher College, Baltimore/b.a. mcdaniel.edu/277.htm number sign RZ, McDaniel College, Westminster. smcm.edu/admissions/underscore assets/images/academic_majors_women.html, St. Mary's College. new.towson.edu/women's studies, Towson University/b.a/m.a/m.s. umbc.edu/gw studies, University of Maryland, Baltimore County/b.a. inform.umd.edu/wmst, University of Maryland, College Park, b.a/m.a/phd. Massachusetts Gender Studies. amherst.edu/academic/life/departments/women's_gender_studies, Amherst College/b.a. bc.edu/bc_org/avp/cas/ws/test.html, Boston College. brandeis.edu/programs/wgs, Brandeis University, Waltham, Interdisciplinary undergraduate degree /MA. bridgew.edu/women's studies, Bridgewater State College. clarku.edu/departments/women's studies, Clark University, Worcester/B.A. hcwc.fas.harvard.edu, Harvard University, Cambridge, concentration. web.mit.edu/women's-studies/www, Massachusetts Institute of Technology, Cambridge/B.A/concentration. mtholyoke.edu/academic/womst, Mt Holyoke College, South Hadley/B.A. dac.neu.edu/women's.studies, Northeastern University, Boston. radcliffe.edu/gcws, Radcliffe College, Cambridge, the Graduate Consortium in Women's Studies. simmons.edu/grad-studies/liberal-arts/academics/gender-cultural, Simmons College, Boston/B.A. smith.edu/wst, Smith College, Northampton/B.A. suffolk.edu/college/17466.html, Suffolk University, Boston. In Women's and Gender Studies/M.A. in Women's Health. ase.tufts.edu/women's studies, Tufts University, Medford/B.A. umass.edu/wost, University of Massachusetts, Amherst. umb.edu/academics/cla/department/women/index.html, University of Massachusetts, Boston/B.A/mccormick.umb.edu/academics/WPPP. The McCormick Graduate School also offers a graduate certificate in Women in Politics and Public Policy. umassd.edu/wrcum/wms/welcome.html, University of Massachusetts at Dartmouth. wcwonline.org, Wellesley College, Wellesley, Center for Women. wheatonma.edu/academic/academic department/women's studies/text/home.html, Wheaton College, Norton/B.A. williams.edu/women's studies, Williams College, Williamstown, Michigan. adrian.edu/academics/ws, Adrian College, Adrian. albion.edu/women's studies, Albion College, Albion, concentration only. alma.edu/academics/women's studies, Alma College. aquinas.edu/women's center, Aquinas College, Grand Rapids. chsbs.cmich.edu/women's studies/default.asp, Central Michigan, Mount Pleasant/BA/BS/BAA/dual major. emich.edu/w studies, Eastern Michigan University, Ypsilanti, BA. and Master of Liberal Studies in Women's and Gender Studies. gvsu.edu/academic/women.html, Grand Valley State University, Allendale. hope.edu/academic/women, Hope College, Holland. kzu.edu/ws/index.html, Kalamazoo College, Kalamazoo, concentration. cal.msu.edu/ws, Michigan State University, East Lansing. oakland.edu/ouws, Oakland University, Rochester/B.A. udmercy.edu/women's studies, University of Detroit Mercy, certificate. lsa.umich.edu/women, University of Michigan, Ann Arbor, undergraduate and doctoral concentrations. kl.umd.umich.edu/wgst, University of Michigan Dearborn. wmich.edu/women's 2, Western Michigan University, Kalamazoo, Minnesota. bemidji/academics/majors_more/wmst, Bemidji State University. acs.carleton.edu/curricular/wgst, Carleton College, Northfield, B.A/concentration. csbsju.edu/genders2ds, College of St. Benedict / St. John's University, St. Joseph / Collegeville /b.a. cord.edu/academics/women's studies/index.php, Concordia College, Moorhead. gustavus.edu/academics/gws, Gustavus Adolphus College, St. Peter /b.a. macallister.edu/wgs, Macallister College, St. Paul /b.a. sbs.mnsu.edu/women, Mankato State University, Mankato. mnstate.edu/women, Moorhead State University /m.a/certificate program for women and science. stolaf.edu/departments/women's-studies, St. Olaf College, Northfield, concentration/b.a. d.umn.edu/ws/main/index.php, University of Minnesota, Duluth/b.a. mrs.umn.edu/academic/interdisc.html, University of Minnesota, Morris. gwss.umn.edu, University of Minnesota, St. Paul, mnpls/b.a/phd in fall. cla.umn.edu/cafs, Center for Advanced Feminist Studies, CAFS. Mississippi. millsaps.edu/academics/interdisciplinary/women's studies.shtml, Millsaps College, Jackson. olemis.edu/departments/sarah_esam_center, University of Mississippi, University. usm.edu/w studies, University of Southern Mississippi, Hattiesburg, Missouri. avila.edu/class/women's studies.asp, Avila College, Kansas City. slu.edu/colleges/as/ws, St. Louis State University, Certificate. stevens.edu, Stevens College, Columbia. ucmo.edu/women's studies, University of Central Missouri State University, Warrensburg, interdisciplinary minor. wgsd.missouri.edu, University of Missouri Columbia/b.a/graduate minor. cas.umkc.edu/wgs, University of Missouri Kansas City. In Women's and Gender Studies/concentration/certificate in Girls Studies. umcel.edu/divisions/iwgs/iwgs.html, University of Missouri, St. Louis, undergraduate and graduate certificate. ascc.artsci.wstl.edu/%7e women, Washington University, St. Louis. webster.edu/academic affairs/ws, Webster University, St. Louis, Montana. cas.umt.edu/ws Prague, University of Montana, Missoula. Option in Women's Studies within the Liberal Studies major/Women's and Gender Studies minor. Nebraska. unk.edu/academics/women's studies.aspx $ID =2914, University of Nebraska, Kearney minor. unl.edu/women's sb/index.shtml, University of Nebraska, Lincoln/b.a/minor in LGBTQ/sexuality studies/graduate specialization in Women's and Gender Studies. unomaha.edu/uno/wmsd, University Nebraska, Omaha/b.a. Nevada. liberalarts.unlv.edu/women's_studies, University of Nevada, Las Vegas/b.a. unr.edu/cla/women's studies, University of Nevada, Reno/b.a. New Hampshire. dartmouth.edu/w studies, Dartmouth College, Hanover. unh.edu/women's-studies, University of New Hampshire, Durham, BA.